Hello, hello, hello. Whoops. Ah, come on. What? Ah, hello. How's everyone doing? Don't know why I can't get the right thumbnail to show up on Facebook, but oh well. Everything looks and sounds good. Well, thank you. All right, good to know. Just got to do this one last thing. If you'll just bear with me. Okay. Whoops. Yes. Mm-hmm. And there it is. Okay, now we can get into it. Hello, welcome to Video Drone with Disregarding Henry. How's everyone been? Hope you've had a good week. Hope everyone is managing to stay sane as the world slowly goes insane. But yeah, we're gonna talk about some movies, try and chill out and have a good time. No review of Swiss Army Man today. No, sorry, I didn't get around to that one. I'm gonna have to save it for next week. I wasn't expecting to watch Twin Peaks, which I did end up watching, and I wanted to talk about. So we're gonna have to postpone Swiss Army Man. Please don't spoil any plot points on Twin Peaks. Waiting for all the episodes to be released to binge watch. I should probably warn you right now. I don't think it's going to be right away, but we probably will be spoiling Twin Peaks plot points. So I will let you know when those are coming. You might want to just mute the stream or just tune out altogether, because I think we will be spoiling some stuff. But I'll let you know when that comes. Since the Cannes Film Fest has come to an end, who do you think will win the Palme d'Or? It's a good question. I'm not really sure. There doesn't really seem to be a really strong favorite this year. I've been seeing, little bits on different films. It's kind of funny you bring that up, because I'll jump back on 15 minutes after the spoiler warning. Okay. I'll have to try and figure something out. When we're spoiling stuff. I don't know how to do that. Just got the Twin Peaks soundtrack. Cool. Yeah, I'm not sure what I can do as like a spoiler warning. Speaking of Twin Peaks, I got my David Lynch coffee too. Appropriate. But it's funny you mentioned the Cannes Film Festival, because I actually just last night I had a dream that Michael Haneke won his third Palme d'Or. So, since I had a dream, and since we're talking about Twin Peaks, and it kind of fits into the whole premonition thing, I am going to predict that Michael Haneke will win his third Palme d'Or in a row. Hello, kitty. And I think my brother will be joining us to talk about Twin Peaks as well. So he's eating some lunch right now, so he'll be in a little bit. I think probably in the meanwhile, I can talk about Alien Covenant, since I did see that one. Will you be talking about episodes 1 through 4, or just 1 through 2? I will actually be talking about all 4 episodes. We watched all 4. If it's possible to, please do not reveal plot. We can try, but I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I did want to discuss. we'll be binge watching Twin Peaks when school ends. Uh-oh. Sounds like a lot of people haven't seen Twin Peaks yet. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't spoil anything then, if everybody hasn't seen it. Guess we'll have to wait and see. Whoa, hey, easy now. He loves to walk across the keyboard. Hello. Yes, yes. Say hi to everyone. This is Odious. Oh, somebody did see Twin Peaks. Alien Covenant was a mess. The ending was cool, though. I love the new Twin Peaks as well. Seen all 4 so far. Okay, so a few of us have seen Twin Peaks. Yeah, it's, I didn't think I was going to watch it because it was on Showtime, and I don't have Showtime here. So I was thinking, yeah, I was going to have to wait for it to show up somewhere else. But my brother, who is really into Twin Peaks, he has an Amazon Prime subscription, and you can get the Showtime app on Amazon Prime. That's like an extra $10 a month, I think. He sprung for the extra $10, and he got the Showtime app, and so we watched the 4 episodes of Twin Peaks that are currently available on Showtime. And I think the next 4 are coming out next month, and it's going to be 18 altogether. So yeah, hopefully we'll be watching all 4 as they get released. And I'll probably be doing, at the beginning of every month, talking about the latest 4 episodes. I kind of wanted to wait for my brother, because he's gotten really into it. He's been studying all of the Reddit posts and looking at all of the clues that people have been discovering and building connections. It's kind of cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, so I don't know, maybe we will give like a spoiler warning and people can tune out for a little bit just so we can mention a few of the things, because I actually find it really fascinating, the stuff that he's been discovering and the discussions that have been happening. Does the new Twin Peaks have the 1.33 aspect ratio of the original series? I think it's widescreen. I've been saying that David Lynch shot the new Twin Peaks on film. I think I've stated that a couple of times. It's actually not true. I made a mistake. I have been spreading false information. After we watched the new Twin Peaks episodes, we were talking about it and saying how it didn't really look like it was done on film. So I actually looked it up. It was shot digitally on the Arri Alexa. So I made a mistake. I remembered reading an interview with David Lynch where he was saying he was getting back into film and wanted to shoot the new Twin Peaks on film. I don't know if he changed his mind or if they decided it was too expensive or what. But the new Twin Peaks was not shot on film. It was digital. So I think it just has I don't know if any of that's showing up on or getting on the microphone, but my cat's really having a good time exploring the desk. But yeah, so I think it just has a standard digital aspect ratio. Hey, come on. Leave everything alone. Get you off of here. Boy, this is a fun stream. Let's see. Is Twin Peaks on HBO? If so, then I will get that 30-day free trial. I'm not sure. It's only on Showtime right now. And the only way I know of to watch it is to either have Showtime and watch it as it premieres on the Showtime network, or you get the Showtime app on Amazon Prime. I don't know if you can get the Showtime app elsewhere, but my brother got it on Amazon Prime. So that's how I've been watching it. Interpretation of Dougie. We'll get to that. We will get to that. We are going to have to spoil some stuff. So I'll give a warning, and we'll try to keep like the spoilers to around like 15 minutes, and then anybody who doesn't want anything spoiled can tune back in, because there is some stuff I would like to discuss. Although I haven't seen it, I'm shocked at how low the viewership is. 500K viewers for Twin Peaks. Interesting. Yeah, what I've been seeing, I think I saw something like an article on that or something saying that like the actual show as it premieres on Showtime, it actually does have a really low viewer count, but Twin Peaks has been driving a record number of subscribers to the Showtime app. So It just seems people really prefer to watch things VOD now. So it seems like people are watching it, and there is a pretty big amount of interest. Let's see what else we got here. Woo! Hey guys, what's up? What's up, Vol Sticks? Got Twin Peaks lined up. Haven't watched them yet. Spoilers. Watched Alien Covenant, though. Meh. Worth it for the great Amy Seimetz, though. Yes, Mrs. Shane Carruth. It was cool seeing her in that. Yeah, so I should talk about Alien Covenant first before we get too deep into Twin Peaks. Lynch's stuff is abstract, so you just have to experience his stuff. Yeah, that's kind of the way I went into the new Twin Peaks. I didn't really want to rewatch the first 2 seasons or anything. I kind of just wanted to go into the new Twin Peaks without a lot of context, because my brother really wanted to follow the whole mythology and everything, be really up to date. So he watched everything leading up to the revival, and I kind of wanted to go the opposite way. I wanted to see how this new series just stands on its own 2 legs. So I've just sort of been experiencing it as just a strange dream/nightmare and just kind of going along for the ride. Whereas my brother has been really trying to figure out the connections and draw parallels and interpret things, because he has that context of having rewatched all of the series and knowing a lot more of the clues and the mythology and everything. Hey, come on. Getting my headphone wire caught on the cat. Let's see. Showtime is only available in the US. Oh, so I'm not sure how you can watch it elsewhere in the world then. Yeah, I only know the US availability then. Sorry about that. It's also on Now TV internationally. Okay. I think that Todd Haynes and Andrei Zvyagintsev and hopefully Yorgos Lanthimos have more chances to win the Palme d'Or. Yeah, we'll see. It'd be cool if Yorgos Lanthimos won it, or Todd Haynes. I'm a really big fan of both of them. Andrei Zvagintsev, if I'm sure I'm saying that incorrectly, but I'm not really familiar with his work yet. I just rented a DVD from the library of his first movie, The Return. I kind of wanted to get into his stuff because somebody mentioned his new one that's playing at Cannes right now. What was that one? Loveless? I think it's Loveless. And I was kind of reading about his work, and I was like, I haven't seen any of this guy's movies. I should start checking some of his stuff out. So yeah, I got The Return. Gonna hopefully watch that soon. Whoa. Let's see. Bought the UK Twin Peaks Blu-ray series set, then upgraded to the Australian one that has no ratings on the artwork, just like the US ones. I hate those intrusive ratings logos. Got mine through Amazon. It has a free week. Oh, and then only $8.99 a month after that. I'm assuming that's the Showtime for watching Twin Peaks. It has to be one of the most niche things I have seen on mainstream television. It's crazy. Yeah, my brother's been talking about that. The people on Reddit have been discussing that. How did he put it? He said, like, people have been saying that David Lynch essentially hoodwinked Showtime into letting him make an 18-hour experimental film for mainstream television. And that's essentially what he did. It is so out there. It is pure, uncompromised David Lynch. He really, he doesn't seem to be sticking to any of the usual TV tropes or conventions or things that you expect. He's just totally out there in his own Lynch world. And you just have to be willing to step into that world because he's not making any concessions. And so I really like that, actually, just how pure it is. It's almost like going back to the days of Eraserhead, when he was just this film student, pretty much operating completely on his own, totally separate from the industry or expectations or anything, just indulging purely in his imagination. That's to me, it seems to be what the new Twin Peaks is like. He almost just seems to be like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go purely where my imagination takes me. So it has a really unfiltered, uncompromised feel. which almost didn't happen because Lynch was fired from the series by Showtime for a brief period. And then the cast, said they weren't going to do it if David Lynch wasn't involved. A lot of fans got upset, and he came back, and I have a feeling that Showtime maybe, once they realized that without David Lynch this thing was just nothing, they just decided, I imagine they just decided to step out of his way and just say, okay, you do your thing, clearly this is all you, and that's what people want, is David Lynch's Twin Peaks, so we're just going to let you do what you do. And you can really feel that. There seems to be absolutely no network interference, producer interference. It's just Lynch from brain to screen. Covenant was, as my old granddad used to say, all over the auction. Okay, yeah, we should talk about Alien Covenant. Old school, I don't know what an app is. Oh, haven't seen Twin Peaks yet. Really excited, though. One of my best friends saw it and said it was disappointing. Interesting. Oh, well, I'll still see it. Yeah, it's only 4 episodes, so I don't know if you can really judge it completely yet, because it's 18 episodes, and we've only gotten 4 so far, so who knows where it's going to go in the next 14 episodes. We've still got a long ways to go. I will say, though, my reaction was kind of varied. It took me a while to get into it. I just want to see what else we've got in the comments here before I start talking about Alien. Say watch Firewalk with me before the new season. It's more like it than the first couple of seasons. Yeah, the new Twin Peaks is a lot darker. The original series, was kind of comedic, kind of soap opera-ish. And yeah, the movie took it in a much darker direction. The new series is a lot like that. The new series is very dark. It's very disturbing. It's got more blood and graphic violence. It's got more sex and nudity. It's got some swearing. And just the whole tone of it is very dark and ominous and kind of disturbing. So Lynch really seems to be taking it in a new kind of direction. Whoa, getting a lot of comments. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with all this. Did you watch Animal Kingdom by chance? I did watch Animal Kingdom. Yeah, the Australian crime movie, I guess you'd call it. That was good. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I liked how the writer-director, David Michaud, I think is how you say his name. I liked how he basically made a crime movie without really any crime in it, It's about a family that commits armed robberies and commits murders and all these things. You never actually see them do any of that. He cuts out all of those elements and basically just makes it about the family and their relationships. And that was really interesting. And the actors, the whole cast was excellent. Guy Pearce, Joel Edgerton, Ben Mendelsohn was great. Jackie Weaver was great. Yeah, it was a really good movie. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm so happy Lynch is back, though. Blue Velvet is one of my all-time favorite films. Oh yeah, Oz. Yeah, I put a hold on that DVD at the library. I will hopefully be starting Oz fairly soon. Okay, yeah, definitely watch Firewalk with me. It basically gives a good idea on the context for the new series without having to sit through 2 seasons. The original Twin Peaks, the first 2 seasons, because I guess this is what every series has to deal with, is that, when you have many episodes going over a year, like a whole season of a show, you have to get different writers, you have to get different directors. Honestly, like the original, the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks were kind of all over the place. They were really hit and miss. There were some bad episodes, but there were some really good episodes too. Overall, I think it's a pretty good show. And I'd recommend checking it out. And it also it sets up a lot of stuff that you need to at least have a passing familiarity with in order to really jump into the new season, because it doesn't really give a lot of backstory, it doesn't really give a lot of context, it just sort of throws you right into it. So you need to at least have some kind of familiarity with the elements that are at play here, like the characters and where we left them at the end of season 2, the Black Lodge, all this other stuff. It introduces a lot of new elements, but it's building on what has already been established. So you kind of need to know where you're starting so you can go off in all these new directions. New Twin Peaks is essentially a collage of all of Lynch's previous works, plus plenty of fresh new ideas, and it's wonderful. It seems the reaction has been pretty positive. Yeah, obviously not everyone likes it. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but, I kind of... Alright, let's just get into this. We can save Alien Covenant for later, since Twin Peaks is on everyone's mind. But yeah, my reaction to it was it was sort of shaky at first when my brother and we watched it with a friend, Brett. He has who also has his YouTube channel, Brett Bynum. He does Brett Flicks. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but the three of us all watched it together, and my brother, he got pretty into it from the first episode. He really liked the new direction that Lynch took it, of making it much darker, introducing a lot of new characters, a lot of new locations, a lot of strange new story threads. So he was pretty hooked instantly from the very first episode. For me, it took a couple of episodes. The first 2 episodes, I'm going to say, I wasn't sure what I thought. It could have gone either way for me at that point. Because the first 2 episodes, and I'm gonna try not to spoil anything specific here, but the first 2 episodes don't really draw a lot of connections between all of the scenes. The first 2 episodes are kind of just, they're very fractured, and they just kind of wander from place to place and character to character, introducing or reintroducing all of these separate elements. And they don't really do much to tie it all together. It's just kind of, first we're here watching this character, then we're here watching this character, and it all seems like it's just these completely separate elements that don't have much to do with each other. It's not until episode 3 that these different threads start weaving together. And by episode 4, it feels like the show has finally really found its footing and is starting to weave all this stuff together and indicate that it's starting to move in a definite direction. So the first 2 episodes, I was really like, I don't know, if it just keeps going like this, just very fractured and disorienting and just constantly introducing these new characters and new plot threads. There are so many different locations. There's Twin Peaks, but then there's also South Dakota, and then there's Las Vegas and a few others. And I was really on the fence about it. I wasn't sure. Hello? Hey. I'm gonna step in.
Yeah.
My brother's stepping in.
How you doing?
But I really wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it. Like, if I was kind of thinking, if the show just keeps going along this path of just being, very, very fractured and just kind of wandering from scene to scene and character to character, I wasn't sure if I was really going to be willing to go along with that for 18 whole episodes. But then by episode 3, it started settling in and following like a set number of characters, tying everything together, and finding more of a focal point that you could ground yourself in.
Talking about initial reactions?
Talking about the first 4 episodes. I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it or if I was going to stick around for the whole 18. But by episode 4, I was definitely hooked. Like, once like the new Sheriff Truman was introduced, and the characters really started coming together, and they started following up on different plot threads, then I was like, okay, this is actually building. It's following up on things. It's not just going to be nonstop surrealism and nonsense and strangeness. It's actually going to follow a story.
I'll admit I had some concerns with the first couple episodes, because I'm one that I wouldn't say I'm nostalgic for the original show because I wasn't watching it when it was originally airing because I wasn't born yet. I do have a lot of affection for it though, and particularly for the humor. And the first couple episodes, I felt like it was really missing the tone that I really kind of fell in love with the original series, where it was surreal. There was a lot of strange elements and surreal elements to it. But I really felt like when I was watching the first few episodes that it was kind of more like a David Lynch movie and not really like the show that I fell in love with. And
yeah, I was saying it kind of felt a lot like Eraserhead.
yeah, and I would still say that's somewhat true. Like, it does feel more like a David Lynch movie than the original run TV show. But after I watched the episodes 3 and 4, I sort of really accepted that, and I'm actually, this new series so far, I might even say I like it a little bit more than the original series.
I think it has a much more consistent tone. That was another thing I mentioned, because the nature of a television show, you can't really have one person really, most of the time, with exceptions, you can't really have one person constantly guiding that and overseeing every single element, every single decision. So they had different directors, they had different writers, and the tone was very inconsistent. Some episodes were really not very good.
Yeah.
But this time around, it's Lynch. He and Mark Frost are writing every script. Lynch is directing every episode, so it has a much more consistent tone.
Yeah, and I think it helps that David Lynch is directing all 18 hours of this. That you're sort of he's leading the ship all the way through, and it's not really like in the original series where in season 2 they kind of passed it off to a kind of different creative team where they took the series in some directions that some people don't really think was very wise. The big one is solving the Laura Palmer case, which was never intended to be.
The end of season 1. If you haven't seen the show, we're probably going to start getting into spoilers now, so you might want to either mute it or tune out, but yeah, we're going to start getting into spoilers, because there is some stuff I want to discuss.
Yeah, and I'm seeing some comments that are talking about the new series, so it sounds like some people are familiar.
Yeah, some people have seen it, some haven't. Yeah, if you really don't want anything to be spoiled, yeah, you might want to tune out for a little bit, because I want to bring some stuff up.
Dougie at the casino.
That is a pretty funny scene.
Yeah, that's been our catchphrase for the past couple days. Hello! We actually, we've been kind of going on a nostalgia trip with the Super Smash Brothers Melee. If anybody's ever played that game for GameCube, I just got this Nintendo Wii. Just kind of as a fluke, I was like, I'd kind of like to get a Wii again. And I dug up a copy of Smash Brothers that I had for GameCube.
That we thought was broken.
Yeah, and we had the greatest time last night, because if you ever played that game, there's a feature where you can get coins, and you can exchange those coins for trophies, basically just like little collectibles you can get throughout the game. And you do so by putting the coins in like a little slot machine and pulling the lever, and it gives you a lottery. Trophy. And we were having like the best time last night, just getting coins, putting the coins in the little like digital jackpot or digital slot machine, pulling it and going, hello! A new trophy. And we felt like Mr. Jackpots for just
Mr. Jackpots.
Yeah, just for a moment. Mr. Jackpots. Yeah, it's been this show's been completely
the humor's starting to come back in. That was the thing. Like, by the time I'll be back then. Okay, yeah, some people need to get out of here to avoid spoilers.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's inevitable. You can be vague about talking with this show, but you kind of have to go into the nitty-gritty to really evaluate thoughts and feelings. You can't really be vague. You kind of have to bring up some details.
There's also some really tantalizing stuff, too. Like, I was also talking about how when I went into it, I didn't really want to rewatch the original show or anything. I kind of just wanted to approach this on its own terms. Like, I want to see how this series stands basically on its own. Whereas you rewatched the show, you watched Firewalk with me, you watched the deleted scenes for Firewalk with me. You really tried to absorb all the mythology, and so you've been drawing many more connections and seeing how this relates to the original show.
Yeah.
You've been following the Reddit posts and seeing all this stuff. And when I watched the first 4 episodes, I was really just like, okay, this is weird, this is strange, I'm starting to follow things. And yeah, by episode 3, the humor starts coming back in with, Dougie and the Mr. Jackpots and everything. It starts finding more of a character grounding, more of a focal point, and it starts becoming, a lot more fun and engaging. You have the first 2 episodes that are really just strangeness and bizarreness and letting you know this is what we're doing now. Yeah. And then it starts to find, it's grounding and saying, okay, now we're going to start building the story and we're going to start following up on things. And I was just kind of like, okay, I'm along for the ride. Like, I don't know what any of this means. Like, I can't really follow this detail or that detail. And then you started telling me about stuff, and I was like, holy shit, there's that. He actually thought this out. Like, that can't be accidental, that little detail there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of, and I'll even admit that first couple episodes, it really felt like Lynch was disregarding the mythology of Twin Peaks and doing his own thing. The fact that it doesn't even take place in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, there's very little that happens in Twin Peaks in the first couple episodes. Still in episode 3 and 4, there's very little that takes place in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, but then I started looking at the discussions online, and I'm a big fan of the show, and like my brother explained, I've watched the whole series, and I've watched Firewalk with Me and The Missing Pieces. But there's like some hardcore fans out there that are just dissecting every single shot of this new series and drawing connections. And there's a lot of stuff that when doing research, my mind was kind of blown of how much it really is connected to the old series that I didn't even realize.
You kind of think, because Lynch is very secretive about his creative process, he doesn't like to talk about how his movies are made, how he writes his scripts, how he comes up with stories. So you can really go either way on him. You can say like, oh yeah, he's methodical, he thinks everything out, everything is there for a specific purpose, or you can go the opposite direction and say like, he's just, he just does things just to do things. It's just for the sheer weirdness of it. And I was kind of more in that direction, just thinking like, yep, it's Lynch being Lynch, doing weird stuff, having like dead trees with bubblegum heads talking to Cooper. Like that's Lynch. He does his weird thing. But then there are some very specific choices and specific details that I totally missed that you've been telling me about. That's like, okay, that can't be accidental. That can't just be there. Yeah. That's too deliberate. That's too specific.
Yeah, my favorite detail so far is this discussion of the Garmin Boja, I think it's how it's pronounced. I don't know if anybody's looked into this, but it's in episode 3 when, spoilers, when Good Coop and Bad Coop are essentially going to switch places, but Bad Coop has a plan where he set up this doppelganger Dougie for Good Coop to essentially switch places with him instead of switching places with Bad Coop. And during this whole switcheroo with the electrical sockets, everyone...
Which brought to mind, actually, since I do Unmade Masterpieces, that reminded me a lot of Ronnie Rocket. If anyone's read that script or watched my Unmade Masterpieces on it, I feel like Lynch took a lot of ideas from Ronnie Rocket, applied it to these new Twin Peaks episodes. Because that whole sequence when Cooper is in that other place after he gets out of the Black Lodge, and he's in that very monolithic industrial like building city, whatever it is.
It's being called the Mauve Zone.
The Mauve Zone?
Like, because it's all purple. I think that's...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so...
that whole sequence, it just had me... It was like exactly what I pictured when I read the Ronnie Rocket script. So I feel like he's using a lot of those ideas, and the whole thing with electricity, people traveling with electricity. I feel like a lot of this is taken from Ronnie Rocket. So I think this has a lot of connections with a lot of Lynch's stuff. I mean, I'm catching vibes of Eraserhead. I'm catching bits of Ronnie Rocket. And I even talked about this. I didn't even realize this until we were talking about it. I'm sorry I'm going off so long while you're trying to do this.
That was good.
But I was talking about other unmade Lynch projects, and figured out a connection that I hadn't even realized before. But Mark Frost, though the guy who co-created Twin Peaks with David Lynch, he and Lynch wrote a couple of screenplays before they created Twin Peaks. I think the first one that they did together was called Goddess, and it was a screenplay about Marilyn Monroe. And then after that, they did One Saliva Bubble, which I've gotten a few suggestions to do unmade masterpieces on. One I hope to do in the future. But that one is essentially a very surreal comedy that takes place in a small town and follows the quirky characters and the strange goings-on in this small town. And I realized those two Lynch-Frost projects, they essentially were combined to become Twin Peaks. Like, you have Goddess, Marilyn Monroe, the tragic blonde. That became Laura Palmer. And then, the weird small town with the quirky characters and the strange happenings, that became the setting of Twin Peaks and the population of Twin Peaks. They essentially just combined those two unmade ideas and created this show. So I thought that was I just thought that was funny. I don't know if it's a coincidence or if it's purposeful that there's all of these elements from these famous unmade Lynch projects that seem to be just finding their way into Twin Peaks.
Yeah. It's kind of funny to me that Lynch is kind of ripping off himself in that way.
A little bit.
Yeah, where he's like, no one knows about Ronnie Rocket. I'll just kind of rip off that idea.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I imagine most people haven't read that script.
Mm-hmm. Might as well use some of those ideas. It's such a great idea.
Yeah, it's a really cool world in Ronnie Rocket, and there are a lot of really cool ideas in it. So I think it's nice that he's managed to find a place for those ideas.
Mm-hmm. And with this business with the Garmin Boja, with that's what the stuff that they're throwing up is called when they're switching places. And Bad Coop, it's like a Monty Python gag, where it's just spilling out of them, and it looks like creamed corn. That stuff was actually in the original series, and I didn't even really realize this until I was looking at some of the fan posts. And there's a small scene with David Lynch's son in the original series, who just looks like David Lynch mini-me, pretty much. It's pretty hilarious. Where he's holding like a handful of cream corn, and it's during like this strange scene with Laura Flynn Boyle's character. I can't remember.
She's not in the new series, is she?
No. I'm thinking they're gonna have a write-off line, where she's she moved or she died or something like that.
They haven't really brought in a lot of the original characters yet.
Not a ton.
There's a few, but a lot of people even that we know are back in the series, haven't really showed up yet.
Yeah.
Or they've just kind of made a brief appearance and then they're kind of gone again, like James.
Yeah. And I'm expecting them to play bigger roles, especially Bobby. I'm expecting him to play a much bigger role.
He just came in episode 4, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that his scene was... I don't know if... I'm not quite sure what to make of his scene. It's a great scene. Like Dana Ashbrook gives a great performance in this really small moment where he captures the spirit of the original show in this small scene when he sees Laura's photo for the first time in 25 years, and all those feelings and all those memories come rushing back, and he just is completely overwhelmed, and it's a really highly emotional moment. It's so far one of the only times Angelo Badalamenti's score has come in too.
Yeah, the piano theme.
Yeah, and that felt like something that was straight from the original series, that sort of melodrama.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's a sign of things to come or if that was just an echo of the past. But that scene really really left me excited about where the series could go with the original characters.
That's maybe another element, is that the first 2 episodes were kind of cold. Yeah. They weren't really focused so much on characters. They were very quiet. They were very ominous and atmospheric, and you didn't really get a lot of sense of like emotion and character interaction. It was more just kind of like building an atmosphere, maybe just setting the tone for the series. And now in episodes 3 and 4, which is getting me much more interested to watch the rest of the series, they're rediscovering the characters, and they're getting more into into some drama and to some interaction, and introducing more elements of humor and melodrama, and that has been the thing that has really made me go like, okay, yeah, I'll stick with this then. It's not just going to be the same thing for all 18 episodes. It is going to go into some other directions.
Yeah. And even the original series had pretty wild shifts in tone.
Yes.
And I feel like that
most of Lynch's movies do.
Yeah, so I feel like that was something that I sort of have to relearn every time I go into one of his movies and one of his projects, that it's not really supposed to be one thing. You can feel a whole wide range of emotions, even within the same scene of like a lot of, like, for example, a lot of the Doppelganger Cooper scenes. My immediate thought when I see Kyle MacLachlan with a mullet is comedic. Like, I'm like, wow, this is sort of like Raising Cain or something. But then once the scene actually unfolds and Kyle MacLachlan really sort of commands those scenes, and there's such an intensity and a palpable tension with a lot of those scenes, even when there's not a lot of dialogue happening, it really can make you turn from laughter to horror really, really quickly, and that's something that it's really hard to pull that off, to be able to shift the tone like that so swiftly.
Those very sudden shifts, yeah.
Yeah, and so far I think the series
disturbing scenes.
Yeah, so far my favorite scene has been the interview with Evil Cooper.
And you pointed something out to me that was the thing that has really started hooking me on the mystery of this new series, of the revival, of realizing, okay, they've got a plan here. They've got something coming. Like, they're actually putting in clues. I'm getting really involved in this mystery now. Once you pointed out this detail to me.
So during this interview scene, it's Gordon, Cole, and Albert, which Gordon Cole is David Lynch.
Lynch is a surprisingly good actor.
Yeah, he's improved like in the last few years. Because like basically his role in the original Twin Peaks was almost like comedic relief, where he provided some exposition, but he was kind of a joke character in a way. But this new series, he's one of the most compelling characters, and his performance is fantastic and really surprisingly subtle and really layered. And this interview scene with Gordon, Cole, Albert, and Cooper, it's completely fantastic, and there's a lot of really interesting details in it. And my favorite is at the start of the scene, when they first sort of drop the curtain, and it's just after this automobile accident that Evil Cooper had, and after he threw up all that Garmin Boja, and there's a lot of talk of what that stuff actually is, and it
seems to be right now that they're trying to get normal Cooper out of the Black Lodge, but Evil Cooper is plotting to stay out of the Black Lodge, so they nearly get him back, but then the other Cooper, Dougie, gets taken back instead. And so now both good Cooper and Evil Cooper are out in the real world now. Yeah,
and it's sort of a shock. There's so much going on in the scene, because for Gordon and Albert, it's such a shock to see Cooper again. He's been off the grid.
Yeah, and they think it's normal Cooper. They haven't seen him in 25 years. So this is the first time they've seen him in decades.
So the two of them are, during this whole scene, they're just mouths agape, like they can't believe they're seeing this man again, because he's been off the grid for who knows how long. And then Cooper has this very stilted, strange monologue about how he's been undercover for the past 2 decades, and that he's basically back and he needs to be debriefed. And there's a lot of really strange choices in the scene. The first of which, he actually Cooper starts the scene speaking backwards for a moment.
Which I totally missed when I watched the scene.
Yeah, he goes, it's very good to see you, and Iriv being very backwards. And Gordon responds by, it's very, very good to see you too. So it was clearly...
Yeah. And then in the scene immediately afterwards... David Lynch is saying, like, he didn't greet me properly, if you catch my drift. There's obviously some kind of code there that they have between each other, and he notices the backwards vary.
Yeah, and there's a lot of codes being talked with the agents that people are figuring out what the blue rose means too. I don't know if you remember Blue Rose.
Oh yeah, I remember Miguel Ferrer's character mentions it.
Yeah, and there's that line after they have the interview with Cooper where he goes, "Yeah, this that doesn't get any bluer than this," and they're starting to figure out that Blue Rose for FBI essentially means supernatural cases.
Oh, okay.
Or that's the thought, at least for the moment.
Okay. It makes sense.
Yeah, because there's also Blue Rose imagery in Firewalk with Me, when Lynch is debriefing Chris Isaac on...
Chris Isaac?
Isn't that his name? The agent at the beginning of Firewalk with Me.
I don't remember.
It's during that... opening scene.
Is it when you see like the woman doing the weird poses?
Yeah, all that coded imagery, and then they never really explain what the blue rose means at the very end. Can
you touch the tip of your nose with the index finger of your left hand when the Twin Peaks spoilers are finished, please? I'll try to remember to do that.
Yeah, sorry, we're gonna be going on for a while. There's a lot to go on, but yeah, like that detail, and also the fact you watch Miguel Ferrer too, who's very his character is very pessimistic and usually has a lot of crass things to say, but I think it speaks a lot of volumes that he doesn't say anything during that scene. That he's just watching Cooper, and you can just kind of see him at the very end of the scene.
He knows something's off.
Yeah, and at the very end of the scene, he sort of looks at Gordon and just shakes his head like, this is seriously wrong what we're seeing here. And it's very subtle, but there's a lot of good choices as far as the acting and the
very subtle choices.
Yeah, and that's been a joy to pick apart and watch.
Once you pointed that out to me, I think that was the thing when you said he says very backwards. Like, okay, that is too deliberate a choice to be accidental. They've got a plan here. They are putting in clues, and they're establishing a mystery, and they clearly know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, clearly Lynch and Frost have put a lot of thought into this, and this finding out all these things has made me a lot more excited to continue watching and see the new future episodes, and to see where this goes.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get very hooked by it now.
Yeah.
It was shaky the first couple episodes, but now I'm like, okay, I really want to see where this develops and where this goes.
Yeah. And I've just been enjoying it for what it is, just as a collection of really strong scenes, too. A lot of people are waiting for, good old Cooper to come back, with the damn good pie. And,
that worried me at first, because like Cooper, he was the thing you could hook onto as an audience member in the original series, no matter how strange it got. It's like Cooper was such a strong character. Kyle MacLachlan gave such a strong performance as that character that you could follow him through all of that strangeness, and he was like the focal point. And now without him, that maybe was the key thing for the first two episodes. It's like, I don't feel like I have anybody to latch on to. I don't feel like there's really any strong focal point to the series yet. We're just kind of going all over the place, and Cooper, something's wrong with him. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. So I was really wondering, like, am I actually going to get invested here? Am I actually going to care what happens in future episodes? But now we're finally there. Like, even without Cooper, there are enough threads being woven that I'm just like, I want to see what happens now. I want to see, if Gordon Cole, discovers that it's bad Cooper, or if good Cooper comes back. I want to see what's going to happen. Yeah.
And I think I'm really desperate to see that old Cooper come back, but I think it's also a bold, ballsy choice to have, so far, at least 3 different versions of Cooper, and none of them are the man we knew from that original series. And I think that's a deliberate choice too. I think there's they're building up a real want to see him again, and also just trying to,
like, an anticipation.
Yeah, an anticipation, and then but also I think they're trying to make you reconnect with this guy, because there's something about seeing him as the as the shell of basically Mr. Jackpots, you could call him, where he is back from the Black Lodge, and there's a lot of things that it could be explaining why he's acting the way he is. It could be because of this false transfer of vessels, that it wasn't, he's not really the man he was supposed to be, so he's acting different and he has to relearn everything.
Or maybe he's just been in the Black Lodge for so long that it's kind of wiped his mind a little bit.
Yeah, that it's sort of, I would compare it to somebody who suffered severe mental trauma.
Yeah, you mentioned the same thing that this is another thing that you have to wonder about and you have to theorize about Killer Bob, who, for, again, more spoilers, but for anybody who watched the original series, it was revealed that, he was like this spiritual entity?
Yeah. Basically, he was a spirit from the Black Lodge, and one of many.
Yeah, and he takes over different vessels, and it turns out he was the one who killed Laura Palmer when he took over the body of Laura Palmer's father. Mm-hmm. And then he moved to someone else, and then at the end of season 2, he's moved on to Cooper. So that's Killer Bob. He's this spirit of destruction and chaos and fear who revels in causing death and destruction. Mm-hmm. You go into this new season, he doesn't appear to be enjoying anything. This was another thing you told me about. It's like, that's actually an interesting point. Killer Bob doesn't seem the same. Good Cooper doesn't seem the same. There's something that has happened. And my theory was that, Cooper spent too long in the Black Lodge, so he's forgetting who he was. Killer Bob has spent too much time in the real world. He's forgetting who he was, that there's
no joy in killing anymore.
Yeah, there's some degeneration happening for both of them being in a dimension that is not their natural home.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation of it.
Right, and it's sort of about restoring order. And
we talked about that. That's kind of like Lynch's thing, is he starts with normalcy and he starts peeling away the layers, revealing all of this dark undercurrent. That's like Blue Velvet. You see like this beautiful like all American neighborhood, white picket fences, red roses. He starts peeling away those layers. There's this really dark undercurrent with Dennis Hopper and Isabella Rossellini. Twin Peaks was kind of the same way. You've got this normal, wholesome, rural town, but you peel away the layers, there's a lot of darkness underneath. There are a lot of hidden secrets. So it's like starting with normalcy and flipping that upside down and turning it into forget the word, but like
normalcy.
the opposite of normalcy.
Oh, I see.
Starting with normalcy and flipping it around into something darker and messier. And
showing under the surface that there's a lot of ugliness and evil.
So like by the end of the series, it just becomes like it's this normal town that is rocked by the death of Laura Palmer, and that totally upsets the normalcy and the order of things. And we were saying like maybe this new series is starting with chaos and all of this other stuff, and is slowly going to reestablish the normalcy. Right,
bring back the balance of
restoring order, like you said.
Mm-hmm. And the first two episodes were by far more abstract than the second two episodes, and so I think it's kind of starting with a sort of that feeling of you absolutely have no grasp of a place, a time, people. Like you start off mostly with new characters with Bill Hastings and the kids in the glass box.
Black glass box, yeah.
Yeah, like you almost have nothing recognizable in those first few episodes, and you feel completely, like, as a fan, you feel very abandoned.
What the hell's going on?
Yeah, exactly. I think that was a very intentional choice to start like that, to make you feel very insecure and uneasy about,
disoriented.
Yeah, and uneasy about where this is going to go. But then it starts gradually, a little by little, you start seeing things that are recognizable and that take you back and start to restore that feeling. And I think that's kind of like like you said, it's sort of an overall theme that I'm noticing with the actual story as well. And I think it's very engaging too, the way the Mr. Jackpot's character is how that's being handled. One of my other favorite scenes is the kind of seemingly, I wouldn't call it pointless, but it seems like a bit of filler.
You call
Cooper.
one thing pointless in David Lynch, like where do you stop?
Yeah, but it's a scene that is not directly related to plot. I'll say that. Where the Mr. Jackpot's Cooper, Dougie Cooper, is essentially assumed the role of Dougie Jones, and he shows up for breakfast with his new wife and his new kid. And it's
Naomi
a really
Watts. I think somebody mentioned Naomi Watts earlier in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is funny to see her showing up.
Yeah, and she's kind of, somebody else pointed out on Reddit, this is the second time she's had to cater to somebody with amnesia in a David Lynch movie.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
That's just what she does in David Lynch world. But this scene of Cooper having breakfast with his fake wife and kid, I think is sort of what maybe Evil Cooper was trying to set up. I think he was trying.
Oh yeah, I think you told me about this.
Yeah, it's kind of reaching a bit, but I find it very interesting that I think Dougie Jones was created to give Cooper a vessel for a domestic life that would make him forget that he was ever the man that he used to be, to sort of settle for this life, this really humble life where he can get up in the morning, he can drink his coffee, I am Dougie's coffee, and sort of just enjoy normalcy. And I think that's backed by this, also the choice of music. It's not a Badalamenti song that accompanies this breakfast scene. It's a jazz song called Take 5 by Dave Brubeck.
This is getting deep now.
Yeah, and it's something, when you listen to it, it's a very upbeat song that gives the scene almost like a comedic feel. But there's a choice in having it be a Brubeck song, who Brubeck was famous for having unusual time signatures. And the time signature of that song is, I believe, 5/4. So it gives the song just enough of a unorganized kind of feel that sets things a little bit off kilter. Like there's something not quite right to everything here, and there's just enough of an unbalance to make things feel not quite as they seem, which I think is kind of showing that it'd be easy for Cooper to submit to this and just enjoy his life, and you even start to see him connect with this kid, and and I think it's sort of a fear that maybe Cooper will just submit and assume this life and
totally forget.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what
So you
Evil
think
Cooper,
that's his plan?
Yeah, I think that's what Evil Cooper wants. I think he wants him just to submit to normalcy, and sort of just, you live your humble little life, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
and we'll be fine.
Maybe he'll even just take over normal Cooper's life, because he's meeting up with David Lynch and the FBI.
Yeah,
maybe he'll assume that role.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think they can leave it at that, though. Like,
no.
Cooper's got to come back.
Well, I think that's why that song was a good choice, because it's off kilter. It's not right, and I think he knows that. And also that scene where he drinks the coffee and spits it out, and I think it's showing that there's the way he reacts to the coffee is not everything he's been doing has been a repetition of what he's already been told. Of your name's Dougie Jones.
Oh yeah.
But the coffee, he isn't told to drink the coffee. He sees the coffee and goes, coffee, and reaches for it. So there was something in there that made him do that wasn't influenced by other people.
Okay, yeah.
So I think that is a sign showing that, yes, he could submit and he could fall into this life and become a different person, but as long as there's that kernel of the real Cooper in there,
there's still something
that won't happen. And that's that whole scene. I just love that scene, especially because it's so, compared to the rest of the series, it's so warm and so joyful.
Yeah.
And the scene is shot very warm too. Like there's sun coming through the window.
He's got like that lime green suit.
Yeah, and it's so colorful and happy, and I just think that was such a brilliant contrast to what the reality is where it's cold and dark, and like with that Gordon Cole scene where there's a very harsh blue filter on everything. And
Oh yeah.
he's seeing the reality of this isn't right. Like we're not
Interesting.
supposed to. There's something wrong here.
Yeah.
When you're sort of getting things when it's disguised, it's so pristine and great. And I'm really loving those stylistic approaches to the material. And I think it's showing really clear formulation of how they're telling the story and how they're divulging clues, and how they're sort of subliminally affecting the audience of the way they're perceiving things and the way they are, I guess, anticipating what's going to happen next.
You can't really anticipate what's going to happen next in this thing. That's, I guess, what's exciting about it.
Yeah.
Because Lynch he's just so far out in his own world. He's not going to follow convention.
But I feel like I'm in a master's hands, though. You know, that's what I really feel like when I watch this. When I watch that scene, when I watch the interview scene, I feel like I'm in the hands of somebody who is really taking me on a journey.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that feeling too, with you pointing out all of these clues layered in. Like, okay, he actually does have a plan. Like, I'm feeling he is,
and with that,
very much in control.
Another detail with that breakfast scene, there's a cookie jar in the background. That's an owl.
Oh, okay.
The owls are not what they seem.
Oh, yeah.
So there's
and then it just occurred to me too, like we haven't seen Matthew Lillard in about 2 episodes either. That's something I actually totally forgot about, is like he's a big part of the first 2 episodes, is that there's a Matthew Lillard character who apparently commits a murder, and we haven't seen anything of that murder in the most recent 2 episodes.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that character at all.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, okay, so this must be, like, Bob's new vessel, but Bob is in Cooper, so what's going on with Matthew Lillard? Is that going to come back? Is that just something that was in the first 2 episodes and we're going to forget about it? Like,
right now they are actually still trying to figure out the cadaver. They're trying to figure out who that body was besides the head. They know the head was his ex-lover. But the body they haven't identified.
Okay,
so I think they're going to get back to him once they figure out whose body that is in the bed. That's my feeling.
Okay.
It could be that they don't even bring it up the rest of the series. I don't know.
That's the thing with Lynch, is you never know. Like with Mulholland Drive, maybe like in the last 4 episodes, it'll completely switch gears. Characters will become different characters.
Yeah.
And it'll go in a completely different direction.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny that, you mentioned that this really does feel like, as a whole piece so far, this feels like something that thematically goes really in line with Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway, almost anything that involves doppelgangers or other selves. Yeah, identity. And I think I'm so glad that they gave Lynch creative control to do this series, to make it his own, because that makes it so much more satisfying, as not only as a fan of Twin Peaks, but as a fan of David Lynch, to feel like that this is sort of like a big, epic, grand...
It almost feels like it's going to be his magnum opus.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be the culmination of his whole career.
Yeah, and that he has the platform to be able to tell an 18-hour David Lynch movie.
Yeah, without compromise. I was talking about that, too, because he was originally fired, and then he was brought back, and it seems like Showtime was just kind of like, all right, whatever, you do your thing. We clearly can't influence this.
Yeah, it's like this is either going to be a huge mistake or the best thing we could have
You've
done.
either got to go all the way or not at all.
Yeah,
and it looks like they went all the way.
And I think Lynch learned enough from doing the 90s series to know that I can't give this over to anybody else. I have to tell this story. I think that's kind of why he did Firewalk with me. To sort of,
he was originally going to do like 3 Twin Peaks movies.
Yeah, and I feel like that was a sort of response to where the series was going, when it was sort of taking different turns and sort of losing sight of what it originally set out to be.
Yeah, and that was network interference. Like, originally, he and Mark Frost never wanted to solve the Laura Palmer murder, but they were under intense pressure to reveal the killer. Yeah. And so at the end of season 1, they had to...
I think actually at the beginning of season 2.
Oh, really?
I think, yeah, it's very strange. At the beginning of season 2, they reveal it, and then it becomes a chase of, like, okay, so what is the nature of Bob and the spirit in the Black Lodge?
Yeah,
Which I'll
okay.
give season 2 credit, even though they reveal the killer. Because they do that, they were able to go into the mythology of the Black Lodge.
Yeah.
Which
And
I
I
feel
remember
like,
there's some interesting stuff with that.
yeah, and then from there
Right.
we were introduced to Wyndham Earl, who is trying to open the gate between reality and the Black Lodge.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay.
I think season 2 ends up becoming very good, and that final episode is one of the best episodes.
Yeah, I remember that last episode being really good.
Yeah, but it's kind of shaky though, because it starts to feel not formulaic, but it starts to feel like there's choices being made just because they want to satisfy the people watching who are invested in it, and they're like, well, we should make things more clear. We should simplify things.
They had a lot of conflict, with the original 2 seasons, and it looks like this time there's none of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just kind of handed him the reins and are letting him take it in whatever direction he wants.
Yeah, and Mark Frost too. I honestly don't know much about Mark Frost aside from his involvement with David Lynch.
Yeah, I don't know much about it either.
I think
I said, Lynch is very reticent to talk about his process and how things are done. Mm-hmm. He's like a magician. He doesn't want to reveal the trick. He wants your eye focused over here while the trick is going on right here. He doesn't want to tell you this. He wants you focusing on the distraction. Mm-hmm. He wants to keep the magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
He even talks about... it's funny, I was just thinking about that. I read an interview with him a while ago. It was like for Sight and Sound, I think. Mm-hmm. They were talking about like, what movie are you watching recently that is really having a big impact on you? And they talked with like Francis Ford Coppola. He was like, Rush Hour 2. And Jim Jarmusch, Wild Wild West. And then they got to David Lynch, and he said Sunset Boulevard. And he was saying, I've just been obsessed with that world, and I've been dreaming about it. And he mentioned, like, I got, like, the special DVD collector's edition, and he said he started watching some of the behind-the-scenes features, and he hated it because it was telling him how everything was done, and it was spoiling the magic for him. So he said he had to stop after watching just a couple of minutes because he didn't want to know how it was done. Mm-hmm. He wanted it to just be, like, this beautiful magical dream.
Yeah.
And I think he approaches his own filmmaking the same way. Like, I don't want to tell people like how I did the effects in Eraserhead. I don't want to tell people like how I came up with this story or what it means. I want it to have like a magic to it.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I love that in his interviews. I just listened to an interview with him today where they were asking him a lot of Twin Peaks questions and sort of the nature of the series and where the ideas came from, and he was deflecting all of them. He would just flat out say, they would ask him, could you explain like the glass box and what significance that has? And he just goes, no. And like with a smile, he's not being a dick. He's just going, no, I'm not going to explain it. Next question.
Could you just tell us what to think?
I love that about him, especially now that he's like 70 years old. He doesn't give a fuck. Like he doesn't care if like he offends anybody or like upsets somebody because they don't get to hear what they want to hear. He's just like, I'm gonna do what I do, like it or not. And if you want to go on this ride with me, great. Like I'm all for it, but
yeah,
I'm not going to cater to your want for this information.
Yeah, which has been kind of nice. Like, there's been such a nostalgia obsession lately, and it's so many things. It's been like, we can't deviate from the formula. We have to give people exactly what they want and what they expect. And so it's kind of refreshing seeing that since everything's coming back, and it seems like whatever was popular a certain amount of time ago is going to get revived at some point. It's kind of refreshing that Lynch is bringing something back, but making it completely different, making it seem like a new thing, new fresh thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think I was reading a little bit more about the Michael J. Anderson situation today.
Oh God, you're telling me about that? That's very strange.
I wanted to confirm what I had told you because I had only just heard about it through some discussions, and I did read a couple of articles today that, again, I haven't seen any valid sources of like citing this is what happened and this is how it happened.
So be wary of the information then.
Exactly, but the rumors are that essentially the Man from Another Place, the Michael J. Anderson character.
Yeah, in the red suit, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was originally going to play Ronnie Rocket.
Yeah. The rumor is that he's not in this new series because him and David Lynch have had a falling out. And I think Michael J. Anderson has gone on record saying that David Lynch is a rapist murderer. And I don't know.
He has gone on record saying that?
He has said that, like, for sure. He did say that.
Wow.
And not only a rapist murderer, but he accused him of raping... He accused David Lynch of raping his own daughter and of killing... I forget who, but somebody he worked with. He accused him of, like, killing this person.
Like murdering this person.
Flat out murder, yeah. And there's absolutely no indication of... Like, not even a semblance of evidence for any of these accusations. And Jennifer Lynch, David Lynch's daughter, came forward and said, like, the things he said are absolutely disgusting, and I hope he gets help, you know.
Yeah, why would he say that stuff?
I don't know. And then
that's so strange.
And then it's also kind of coming to light that recent comments he's made on his Facebook are very much based in anti-Semitism and almost neo-Nazi tendencies.
So bizarre.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I haven't followed this very closely, so I don't really know. I don't really know the validity of some of these statements, but I can kind of see why, even just the air of some of the stuff around this guy now, that they'd be like, let's just replace him with a tree.
Yeah.
And
some chewed up bubble gum on a tree.
Yeah. Which people have pointed out about that tree, that I think people think now that it's actually supposed to be a nervous system. That it's like a brain on a nervous system. That's why there's all those electrical pulses kind of like firing on it. And I don't know why that makes any difference, but it's kind of cool though. Like it's kind of a neat thing. Yeah.
Wow. That's so bizarre.
It's a shame too, because they were kind of like, their working relationship was really interesting, because he was also in Mulholland Drive.
Oh yeah, that's right. They built like an oversized body for him so that it could look like he had an extremely tiny head. Another Lynchian choice.
And I saw interviews with him on the Twin Peaks Blu-ray set where he was very like lighthearted about his role and his perception of like his public perception. He was laughing and saying like, "Oh, when people see me on the street, they think they're going crazy because I'm this guy from this surreal place." And he was laughing and having a good time, saying like, "Oh yeah, I love it. It's great."
Wow.
But then he also said recently that he, when they announced the new Twin Peaks and when he was announced to be involved, he said, "I've always hated Twin Peaks. Like it was always this boring show and it was never good unless I was in it." And very just. Yeah, I think he may be mentally sick or something. It's very, very strange.
Never would have guessed.
It's too bad that it's very appropriate that this show has taken place 25 years after the original, because
it kind of gives them leeway to go off in some different directions, right around some roadblocks. It's so sad how much of the cast has passed away too.
I was gonna say that's the only downside, is that people have gotten older. A lot of people, unfortunately, aren't with us anymore.
Yeah, even like several actors who shot the series. Like David Bowie was originally going to come back.
And Philip Jeffries, his character, has been referenced several times.
Who is Philip Jeffries?
That's the David Bowie character.
Oh, okay, yeah. But David Bowie passed away before they could film his stuff. They filmed with Miguel Ferrer. He passed away very shortly after they finished filming. It's so sad.
Yeah, Catherine Coulson, the log lady.
It's hard watching her scene. She's clearly very sick. She's she's hooked up to oxygen. It's very sad seeing her.
But at the same time, I'm so grateful they filmed those scenes.
Yeah.
Because I think that was also her. You can tell that she really wanted to be a part of it. To the fact that she was okay, kind of showing her in that state.
Yeah.
That I think it was very, almost. I think it's pretty touching that they shot her stuff first. They got her in there, and they made sure she was a part of it, because that's such a big part of her legacy and what people will remember her for. And I think it was very important to have her in there. So I'm glad they were able to do it.
Yeah.
But it is tough to watch for sure.
Yeah. So I guess. that'll probably be it for the time being until the next 4 come out, and we'll probably be back here talking about the next 4 episodes.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I went from pretty stoked for this new series to fully obsessed with this, not just the original world of Twin Peaks, but this new world we're seeing. And as
the expanded world.
Yeah, and that's I can't describe how much I've missed that feeling of actually feeling excited for what's to come and what's new, and feeling the anticipation of what could be next. So everything is so familiar now because there's such a tendency to go for the familiar and to give people exactly what they want and what they expect.
Yeah, not take too many chances.
Exactly.
This is like nothing but chances.
Exactly.
Taking some bold risks.
And the fact that there's even some excitement knowing that it may not even pan out. The fact that it may spin out.
They might lose control of it.
Yeah, there's such a special quality to this that I think is we're pretty lucky to be able to see it as it's happening, I think. And
yeah, it's exciting. It's been I don't know if I've ever been like involved in a series like as it's coming out, as it's new. Like anything I have gotten into, or like it's either something from the past or something that I'm like 8 seasons behind on, or whatever, something that's already canceled. And yeah, this is like the first time I can remember, at least, where like I'm catching something as it's new, as it's coming out, and anticipating the upcoming stuff.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just wait for June 4th for the next batch of episodes, and I may rewatch them again. I've watched every episode twice. I may watch them again, just because it's dense. Like there's a lot to discover, even just subtle details.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be discovering more stuff and telling me about it.
Yeah. But in the meantime, just
we'll see what happens.
See what happens for sure. But all right.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go back to the stream? I guess we're streaming right now. But
Yeah.
like the normal format of the stream.
Well, actually, I still need to talk about Alien Covenant if you wanted to stick around for
I'll
that.
stick around for that.
Because we both saw Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
Apparently, David Lynch is now saying he hasn't quit making films, but not to say never. We're playing with our hearts, Dave.
I had heard that too. I heard
told
that
me
he
about
was
that, yeah.
recently. He said he was misquoted.
I was giving more false news because I was talking about how like before the show came out, I was like, oh yeah, David Lynch, he shot this all on film. Turned out that's not true. And then I read like that.
Which at first it was kind of worrying because we're like, if he shot this on film, then film quality has gone way down in recent years. Because the first couple episodes, there's some spotty.
That might have been the streaming.
Yeah,
like just the quality of the stream. But then I read that thing that he was apparently saying he was not going to make any more films, and then he seems to have clarified recently, saying like, I didn't say I was never going to make another film. I said it wasn't likely that I was going to make another film.
Yeah.
Which gives hope for the future, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that this not only the creative freedom he's getting from the show, but also the feedback that he's getting. He got a standing ovation at Cannes premiering this, and
I think we're done with spoilers. So left hand on the nose. I think spoilers for Twin Peaks are finished.
Yeah, I think it's exciting to see if this continues to go where it's going, and Showtime is breaking streaming records with this.
Yeah, somebody pointed that out, that the syndication ratings have been really low. Like, they don't have a very high viewership on the television premieres. But apparently, specifically Twin Peaks, the revival, has been driving record numbers of subscribers to the Showtime app. Yeah. So that they can stream them.
It was the only reason I subscribed. I had no other reason to... I'm not going to watch freaking... I can't even think of the other Showtime shows.
I don't know what else is on Showtime.
Yeah, I've scrolled through.
Andrew Dice Clay?
Yeah. I'm not going to watch Clay or Dice. There's no reason. But I think the format that he's able to tell the story is exciting to see. Yeah, what he could do. The fact that never say never. He could he'll do another original series. Who knows?
Yeah, I hope it opens up more opportunities for him. He gets to make another movie, gets to do another show, something, because clearly he hasn't lost his creativity. he's still one of the most original voices out there. I mean, just the stuff he comes up with, I don't think anybody else could ever come up with that.
Nope. No way.
So it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Alien.
Yeah. Let's move on to Aliens.
Let's go on to the familiar, the very familiar.
So yeah, speaking of stuff that used to be stuff in the past and is now coming back to be new stuff now.
I was just thinking about this. So far, it's been a good year. I've liked a lot of stuff that's been coming out, but it's all been stuff that we've already seen before. Twin Peaks, Mystery Science Theater 3000, Alien. Yeah. I mean, all of it's really good.
Got Blade Runner coming out later this year.
Yeah, but it's all
Power Rangers, Baywatch.
Well, that's the other side of the spectrum. But I'm grateful that we're getting new episodes, new movies of stuff that I've really enjoyed so far, and I'm continuing to enjoy. But slightly disappointed that there's not anything new this year that I'm excited for.
Yeah, well, Cannes is happening right now.
Yeah.
And lots of original stuff is playing at Cannes, like Yorgos Lanthimos, his new film, new Michael Haneke film. A lot of good directors that I'm really excited for. Todd Haynes has a new movie. Todd Haynes is one of my favorite directors. John Cameron Mitchell has a new movie out this year, and I love his film. Short Bus is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that he's got a new one. He hasn't made a film in like 6 years, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
So there is original stuff coming out, but it's only on the small scale. I guess Cannes is really big, but as far as pop culture goes, yeah, it's just kind of cannibalizing familiar stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not going to say that we're completely... I think it's a reflection of just what the audience is demanding, honestly. Because you look at everybody, all the comments for stuff that was canceled before its time, or there hasn't been a sequel in 20 years, and people demand it, and people pay to see it, and it's... I mean,
all the industry does is meet a demand.
Yeah, exactly.
So if there's a demand for something, they're going to meet it. Although sometimes I wonder, like, King Arthur, did we really want another King Arthur movie?
I saw some people, some friends of mine on Facebook post some photos of, like, King Arthur premiere tonight. I'm excited. It's like, really? You're the only ones then, because I don't think anybody else has been anticipating the release of the new King Arthur movie. Isn't it Roland Emmerich or something?
No,
like
it's
that?
Guy Ritchie's new movie. I like Guy Ritchie, but man, I just haven't been too excited with his recent stuff, like Sherlock Holmes, King Arthur.
Because it's all been familiar. He was at his best when he was telling quirky original gangster movies.
Just indulging in his sensibilities and sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, those early movies were really good. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and Snatch.
I love Snatch.
Yeah, even Revolver I thought was good. And Rock and Rolla.
Yeah, Rock and Rolla. And those were all movies with a distinct voice.
Yeah.
Something that felt different and unique, and so much energy and visceral quality to it. Whereas these...
Yeah, he's a really visually creative filmmaker.
Yeah, and I'd even give credit to the first Sherlock Holmes movie for having a lot of that visual flair that he's famous for.
Yeah.
I've only seen parts of it. I honestly haven't seen the whole movie. But I've seen like the scenes where it's sort of a subjective point of view from Sherlock Holmes, and he's...
showing how quickly his mind works. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really new, fresh way to visualize a Sherlock Holmes story, of sort of giving you a subjective perspective of how he's breaking things down, and much different from, like, say, the Sherlock TV show.
Wow, there's a lot of Sherlock everywhere.
Yeah, he's like the new the new thing, I guess. Everybody's into Sherlock. But
The Endless, I'm really excited for The Endless this year. That is really small. I don't know what The Endless is. I'll write it down on my list. But yeah, let's talk about Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Alien Covenant?
I liked it.
The Endless. Yeah, I enjoyed it too. There's been a mixed reaction going on with this one. I've been reading a lot of negative things. I was seeing some comments earlier. It didn't sound like the reaction was particularly strong. I've been reading two main criticisms. One, that it doesn't break any new ground, that it's basically just a repeat of the first movie. And then the second criticism is that it tries to be a clumsy hybrid of the first Alien and Prometheus, trying to get the themes of Prometheus, the science fiction themes, and combine that with the horror intensity and thrills of the first Alien, and that it just doesn't mix very well.
Yeah.
And I can understand both of those criticisms. I would agree it doesn't really break any new ground, and I would say it's an occasionally uncomfortable mixture of Prometheus and Alien, but overall, I would say I enjoyed it. I had a good time with this movie.
I never really understood why Alien was seen as something that's really kind of sacred and held up on this high pedestal of something that really needs to be lived up to. I really like that first Alien movie, but I've never really thought of it as anything beyond a really good horror movie. One of the best horror movies, perhaps. But I really like that every movie has sort of had its own distinct approach to the material. Yeah. Even the bad ones, like even Alien Resurrection, has its own approach to the material. And it's almost essentially all the same movie over and over again, but it's just different filmmakers, different styles.
Yeah, they get directors with very distinctive styles to approach the material.
It was never really like the most original in concept or story. It was always kind of the same people in the same trappings, and then
you've got a scary monster, and you put him in a claustrophobic setting, and the monster slowly kills off everyone.
And honestly, that's why I kind of like Prometheus out of the whole bunch the most, because that was making a deliberate choice to do something different. Took a lot of chances.
That was the first one that was actually like a sci-fi movie. It had an expansive story. It had large themes and ideas that it was tackling. That was, I guess, the first one that you could call more than just a fairly straightforward horror or action movie.
Yeah. And
Boss Baby's gonna get an Oscar.
Well, it's DreamWorks, so they're at least they're second to Pixar. If Pixar fails in their animated movie this year, which it's Coco, I think, is the new Pixar.
Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. The dog one?
Yeah. If that ends up flopping, then Boss Baby's the front runner for animated film.
Did you see it in 3D? We saw it in 2D.
Yeah, we didn't have a 3D option, which
I
enjoyed the implementation of 3D in Prometheus.
I didn't see Prometheus in 3D. I only saw it on Blu-ray in 2D.
Yeah, I liked...
but you were raving about the 3D on Prometheus.
It was one of the better uses of it. Up there with Life of Pi for me, with the use of 3D. Really? Yeah.
Well, Prometheus was shot in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Alien Covenant was shot in 2D, so I like to see it in the natural format.
Yeah.
I always think 3D conversions look terrible, but if it's shot in 3D, it looks good.
Yeah, typically, yeah. And with this new movie, Alien Covenant, I think it was a deliberate choice to get things back to the format that people are familiar with.
Get it more, like the relentless thriller. That seems to be the intention here, is like, we're just going to make this, we're going to have some of the themes, but mostly this is going to be a straightforward, relentless thriller with nonstop excitement.
And I think that's what Ridley Scott was aiming to do with this movie, but you could tell his heart was still with Prometheus, of trying to tell a movie and try to do a story with a little bit of depth to it, and try to elevate the material more than just people caught in a ship with an alien, they die one by one. And I think that's why the strongest stuff in the movie ends up being the stuff with David.
Yes, that is... I would absolutely agree with you that the best scenes in Alien Covenant are the Michael Fassbender scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Minor spoilers if you haven't seen the movie. But the direction that the David character is taken in this story is very, very interesting. Yeah,
and I like that he is an antagonist in this story, but there's a sort of moral gray zone with what he's actually doing. And he's essentially, spoilers, but it's carrying over his need and desire to create that was established in Prometheus, and that sort of free will that comes with his specific model of where that is going and where that's developing, and how it how it's essentially turned into something pretty sinister.
Yeah, he's gone a little insane in the isolation.
Yeah, but still, like, there's something really interesting about his real conviction with what he's doing, and the fact that these things that he's creating have just as much a right of life to just as much as humans, essentially, and that he sees his life forms as just as much validity with his human creators. And
I think it's exploring that idea that the xenomorph is like a perfect organism.
Yeah.
It's like he's kind of looking at it from a Darwinian perspective. It's like human beings are too fragile. Like, this is just a more highly evolved organism.
Yeah.
And if it wipes out human beings, well, that's nature.
Yeah, exactly. And we walked in late on the opening because there's this freaking family in front of us at the concession stands. They've merged the concession stand with the ticket booth at our movie theater. So if you want to buy
horrible theater.
Yeah, if you want to buy a movie ticket, you have to wait in line at the concession stands to buy a ticket. So if you get caught behind a family going to see The Boss Baby, and they all want to order like 5 tubs of extra buttered popcorn and slushies and candy.
For some reason, they only had one register open.
Yeah, you have to wait behind them until they're all done so you can buy your ticket.
Yeah.
And we ended up being on time for the movie, but we ended up being 10 minutes late.
Missed about half of the prologue.
Yeah, we missed all the trailers and half of the prologue because of the Boss Baby family. And
how were Danny McBride and James Franco under Ridley Scott's direction? Well, James Franco is barely in the movie, but Danny McBride, surprisingly good.
Yeah.
He's got some real chops.
Yeah, I'm frustrated by the perception that actors can only do one thing. Because you've only seen them in comedy movies, they could only do comedy. Yeah. I think we always say that, where it's like, oh, I'm really surprised he can do other things, but it's like he probably wouldn't be an actor if he could only do one thing, I mean, sure, people get lucky sometimes, but I wasn't honestly that surprised that he was pretty good in the movie, because I was well, if he's in it, and Ridley Scott obviously saw something in him, and he's playing, I was pretty sure he was going to be playing an archetype. I mean, it doesn't take much thought to see him in the trailer with a cowboy hat. Yeah. To be like, okay, he's going to be some kind of, comedic relief or
which they didn't take that into such an extreme direction.
Yeah, they used him just right. Mm-hmm.
I will say we're getting some negative comments. I thought it was an absolute mess of all the movies. Some Frankenstein monster that never really works. The second half really fell apart.
The last 20 minutes, I'll say, was pretty disconnected. But
it was all over the place. The goddamn camera work, the editing, the dialogue was okay, but I hated the way it completely demystified the xenomorph's origins, which I personally do not think should have ever been explicitly revealed.
It certainly is scarier when it's a fear of the unknown.
I will say that I do have criticisms of this movie. And I don't... there were different weaknesses. I thought the characters, weren't so strong. They were mostly just cannon fodder, people to be picked off by the monsters. But I will say that I thought this movie, in the first, 2/3, did a really good job of reinventing the xenomorph. Obviously, that's... If that's your if your view on it, that the xenomorphs are better left a mystery, and it is more fascinating, seeing just the suggestions in the first movie and not really getting into the specifics of it. This movie is really trying to specifically plot, this is how the creatures develop, this is what the space jockey is, and it does take away some of the intriguing mystery. I can understand that, but for me, imagining what was so groundbreaking about the original Alien movie was that it created a monster that nobody had ever really seen before, with a very complicated life cycle and a very complicated biology. It starts as this mysterious egg, then it becomes this thing that's on the guy's face, and then it becomes this tiny little creature that bursts out of a guy's chest, and then it becomes this giant, terrifying 8-foot tall beast. So in 1979, if you're an audience member in the theater seeing that for the first time with no familiarity, like, that's got to be the most terrifying thing. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what is going to pop out of the shadows. It's got this unpredictability. Yeah. It's got this threat. It's got this atmosphere. And so to try and recapture that, they really have to try and play with the rules of the Alien. And I thought Prometheus did a very good job with that, of introducing new elements and trying to recapture that unpredictability where you don't know, like, okay, how's the xenomorph going to come into play with this? What is the black goo? What are these weird little snake things? What is this? What is that? And it tries to recapture that unpredictability.
Mm-hmm. And you never see the xenomorph as we know, even at the end.
Yeah,
when
in
it
Prometheus,
when it gives you the final reveal of that creature that's created.
You're starting to get there.
Yeah, and I think that was... I really do love the way that was handled. I love that it didn't really try to give you any fan service in Prometheus. Yeah, if anything, it frustrated fans even more because it didn't give you fan service.
Yeah, I thought Prometheus was a stronger movie overall, but I thought Alien Covenant still had its strengths. For the first, 2/3, I thought it did a really good job of trying to mix up the biology again, of having the spores that enter people's bodies, and then the different versions of the xenomorphs, the much more aggressive, freakier looking xenomorphs, or I guess just the albino xenomorphs. But yeah, introducing those. For the first 2/3, I thought the movie worked really well as just this relentless thriller. It was really exciting. It was really intense.
Didn't feel like 2 hours.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. The movie just has a non-stop energy to it that takes you right through. You really do not feel the running time at all. And yeah, when it was mixing things up and trying new stuff in the first 2/3, I thought it was really good, really exciting, really fun, really entertaining, very intense. By the last third or so, when it introduced the familiar xenomorph, that's when I kind of thought it started losing a little bit of steam. Because I recognized that monster. I knew where it was going to go from that point. And it was kind of just... It felt like just playing out the necessary finale.
Yeah. It's... I think that last third, I'm a little conflicted by it. Because I do think it let down the rest of the movie. But there's also a part of me it's wanting just to let go, that it's not really trying to be anything more than a fun thriller, essentially.
Yeah, I think those were the expectations I had going into it. I just want to have a good time.
And I think Ridley Scott, I would even go say he's handling the material somewhat tongue in cheek. Because
we were talking about this.
Yeah, because I think about that last scene with the alien on the ship, and the kills that go down. He actually does the slasher movie shower shagging, killing the two characters that are having sex in the shower and they're oblivious to what's going on.
The obvious trope.
Yeah, and to me that was a comedic choice, a deliberate comedic choice, because it was essentially saying this is the genre that we kind of started with, and that was sort of evolved, and now we're kind of going back to it. We got into this heady stuff in Prometheus, but now we're back to the old shower shagging. And to me, it was
there's
like kind
self-awareness.
Yeah, exactly. It was, to me, pretty funny that he did that, and I kind of liked that in a way.
Yeah, I would agree. Ridley Scott, I mean, come on. He's 79 years old. He's been in the business for decades. Very, very, very few people on this planet have more experience, more understanding, more, I guess, of a strong instinct for filmmaking that this guy does. He knows what he's doing. So, yeah, I think to say that he's not aware that he's playing with horror tropes, I think is a little ridiculous. I think he very clearly knows.
Just because, the character isn't looking at the camera wow, seriously, you guys are showering? That's awkward. Way to be vulnerable, guys, doing the Deadpool thing.
Yeah, we were talking about that. It seems self-awareness these days is something you really have to beat the audience over the head with in order for people to get it. You've got to do Deadpool levels of self-awareness in order for people to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're more subtle, like Ridley Scott, because even going back to the first Alien, he does that. You know, Harry Dean Stanton, think about that scene. There's a strange creature loose on the ship. He chooses to go off by himself, wandering in all these dark corridors. You know he's going to die. You know exactly what is going to happen. And I think Ridley Scott knows too. I think he's essentially saying, I know what scene this is. You know what scene this is. Let's just have fun with it. And yeah, I think he's doing a similar thing in this one. Like, come on, you know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. Let's have fun with it.
Yeah.
I think there's a subtle self-awareness happening.
That speaks also to the reveal of the eggs. The whole way that scene is played out, you could see it as just basically like a character gap in logic, where it's like, clearly you don't want to stick your face in this foreign object that the villain is telling you to stick your face in. Like, that's why would any captain of any ship fall for a gag like that?
Uh-huh.
But I think it's just because Scott is identifying with the specific genre of film, and he's playing with those cliches and conventions and having fun with them.
Yeah, I mean,
because look at the way he shoots that scene where he gives David a close-up with sinister lighting, you know, where he looks like a ghoul almost, and he says, why don't you stick your face in and find out? And then he slowly makes his way to the egg and dips his face in.
That's the classic horror thing, is you're yelling at the screen like, no, don't do it, but the character has to open that door or walk down that dark corridor.
Yeah, I think it's, to me, the stuff like that in the movie, it made me just enjoy it for what it is. It didn't make me set my expectations too high and be disappointed. I was able to recognize that and just accept it and have fun. And I walked out of the theater not...
I think it is about tempered expectations.
Yeah.
It's not the best entry in the series, but if you're willing to go along with it, you're willing to have fun with it, it's a very enjoyable film. And yeah, the thrills per minute, I mean, is very, very high. Ridley Scott seemed to just kind of challenge himself to see if he could just do 2 hours of basically non-stop intensity and just keep the thing moving relentlessly. And he does that pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's like a youth and a vigor to the movie that would make you never guess that the guy who made it is almost 80.
Yeah. What's the deal with these like octogenarians making the best action movies out of anybody?
Who's the other one?
I was thinking George Miller with Mad Max.
Oh, yeah. Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, it's like, how come the old
They're showing the young guys how it's done.
It's hilarious to me that that the people who are essentially supposed to be in old folks' homes are making the most intense, thrilling action movies that are coming out today.
I enjoyed it the first time, but after second viewing, I saw all its flaws. I will admit that,
you let it sit and you kind of start to think about it.
Talking about Alien Covenant, immediately after it was over, I was like, wow, that was pretty good. I had a good time with that. And then thinking about it, it was like, you know what? It is kind of an awkward mixture of sci-fi and horror. Like, the characters were kind of weak. I think it's been pointed out by other people. I saw you watching Red Letter Media's video on this movie. Like Billy Crudup's character, the way they introduce like the fact that he's a person of faith and then don't really pay that off or explore that. There's a lot of flaws, but just the immediate experience of it is a lot of fun and really enjoyable. And I think it definitely has its strengths. Specifically, Michael Fassbender, like his performances, the depths of that character that is explored, the biblical themes that are touched upon, are very interesting.
Yeah.
And very cool. And the ending of the movie actually left me very interested to see where the story goes from there. Like, I want to see how that character develops. Yeah. I want to see what the next step in that process is.
Now that he's got a giant petri dish to make experiments with and have some fun and do all this crazy shit. And you've seen, like, to me, David's a fascinating character because he's unpredictable. He's a machine that we created that is unpredictable. And that's, like, such a heady concept to me of just the nature of free will and technology. And
creation's creating.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that plays into the aspect of religion. Like, if we're God's creations, we are creating our own life. Our creations are creating their own life. The creation usurps the creator.
Yeah, exactly. And he's sort of, it's going so out of control now that I feel like it's going to be something so beyond his control at a certain point.
Oh, yeah.
And that really leaves me excited to see what kind of world he creates. And there's so much potential there. I think you could make a movie. Alien Covenant could just be the bridge to this really great sci-fi action horror movie that we're about to get.
I think there's a lot of potential to explore there.
Yeah, and for what it is, like, I really did think Alien Covenant was pretty good. And honestly, it might have been because I set my expectations fairly low going in.
Yeah, that might be part of it.
Because I had heard that it's like, it's just the exact same movie as Alien, doesn't break any new ground.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I watched it, I was like, oh, it's actually trying to like have a story here and give you some concepts that make you ponder a little bit. And I guess I was so surprised that it had some actual art and tech, like craft to it.
Ridley Scott's a craftsman.
Yeah, that I was like, wow,
That's another thing. Just visually, the movie's great. The special effects are fantastic. The sets are fantastic. The cinematography is fantastic.
Yeah, that's kind of
I love the clunky, bulky, like retro futurist design of it. Everything's machinery. It's rusty. It's wet, it's textured, it's it's all like analog. There's very little digital equipment. I love that aesthetic design of it.
And that's something that you could almost take for granted watching a Ridley Scott movie, because that's something people overlook with Prometheus too, I think. They kind of focus on...
That movie looks great.
Exactly, yeah. I think people focus on some script shortcomings, which, I mean, is valid.
Admittedly, yeah.
Yeah, but I really fell in love with that movie because how it looked and how it really took me to...
You saw it in 3D, in a theater. You got to...
It took me to a place I had never been before. It showed me things I had never seen.
Which, Alien Covenant doesn't do as well as Prometheus. I thought the structure of Prometheus' story, the way it built, the way it slowly established, strange goings-on and a threat, and the way it kind of... It had rising action that built to a satisfying climax. It left unanswered questions, but emotionally to me, the way it built from establishing the story, having the rising action, having a big satisfying climax, I thought it was really well done, and it built atmosphere and it built suspense. Alien Covenant doesn't do that quite as well. It's just like we got to start off running, and we got to keep that going. So maybe not as investing, not as atmospheric. It doesn't have as involving a tone. But yeah, if you can get into that approach that Scott is taking on this one of just plowing relentlessly through, not having as much atmosphere, not having as much tension or suspense, then for what it is, for what it tries to do, I thought it was pretty good.
My only advice to people who haven't seen it is just to have fun. Like, don't be like a fanboy and get angry that it... I mean, I know I'm sounding condescending right now. I'm sorry, but don't go into it expecting to be something that you want it to be. And that's how I managed to really find a lot of enjoyment out of it, because I went in with an open mind and just ready to watch a fun movie, and it more than met my expectations. And I think people are kind of losing touch with just that feeling of going to a movie and not being too concerned of how it fits into the grand picture and how it's canon and how it's all this. And it's just...
I've been similarly frustrated. Like, I understand that people that follow a series, that get really into it. Like, how you watch movies is how you watch movies. I don't want to put anyone down. But for me personally, the way I've always approached movies is like, what is the artist trying to do with this specific work?
Yeah.
And that's the way I approach it. Is like, I want to see the movie on its own terms, the way it was made by the people who made it. And I do honestly, I try not to let it really bother me that much, but I do get frustrated when I see so many people approaching it from a more now this sounds really insulting, but from a more self-centered perspective. I wish I could find a better way of putting that, but it seems to be so much today about my expectations, what I want out of this thing. This movie wasn't what I wanted, which we all do that. I do that, that's a part of it, but I see that so much now with like everything that everyone approaches. Maybe I'm blowing it out of proportion in my head, but I see that so much and I get frustrated by that. It's like, why not just approach a thing on its own terms?
Yeah. And
that's the way I do it. Or try to, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I've been so burnt in the past by setting my expectations too high because I was a fan of something.
Yeah.
And I'm just so tired of that. That's why I'm not gonna even. I don't think I'm even gonna rewatch Blade Runner before the new Blade Runner comes out.
I've heard too many times.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go in and try to forget the fact that it's even a Blade Runner sequel, and just watch it as a movie. And hopefully, by doing that,
I'm really gonna try and approach it just as a Denis Villeneuve movie because I'm such a fan of his work. Like, I'm gonna say like, okay, this is the new Denis Villeneuve movie. Let's see, if it's as good as Arrival. See if he can keep up that momentum.
Absolutely.
Amy Simons was good.
Who's that?
Amy Simons. She starred in Upstream Color.
Oh, you were telling me about her.
Yeah. She played the landing craft pilot.
That's right.
She's good. Yeah. She doesn't have a big part. Like I said, a lot of the characters are kind of underdeveloped.
Yeah. I would say that's a legitimate criticism with the movie, is that they're there to be killed. And
most of the time,
and that same token, it's a part of that whole fun of it being a kind of a slasher movie, of the playing with those genre conventions, the fact that they are disposable, and that makes it kind of fun at the end when you're sort of questioning who's actually going to survive.
Yeah, which is another thing. Back in the day, in 1979, that was probably what a lot of people were wondering, because Sigourney Weaver was an unknown when they did the first Alien, and you had a lot of really well-established actors in that, like Yaphet Kotto, Harry Dean Stanton, Tom Skerritt, I think, was the biggest star at that time, and they all died pretty much before anybody.
Yeah.
And that, I think, at the time really made people go like, well, who's gonna survive then? Like, I have no idea. I think they tried to do a similar thing here where, or almost they cast like almost entirely unknowns or relative unknowns, people who hadn't really been in a lot of big movies. So you were wondering like, wow, is anybody gonna survive? Who's gonna walk away from this thing?
Absolutely.
But yeah, basically, most of the actors, their job is to look terrified and keep that intensity level going, and they did a pretty good job of that. So Amy Simons, delivered on her part of the bargain.
Yeah, I don't know that lead actress in the movie.
Catherine Waterston?
Yeah, that's right, Sam Waterston's daughter.
Yeah, she was in Inherent Vice.
Who is she in Inherent Vice?
The Joaquin Phoenix's girlfriend.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, she was good.
Yeah, she was good too.
But
really, Fassbender steals the whole show.
Yeah,
he's the best character.
He's really the only fully fleshed character in the movie that you actually, both characters, him and Walter, David and Walter.
Yeah.
Both of those characters are very distinct from each other, which is funny because they're essentially the same character, but just different generations.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of really interesting choices, even with his accent, of how David and Walter have different accents, and the way they play off of each other, and the way David seduces Walter into
that's some of the best like twin acting
that
I've seen. It's really good, and
they fight too. You gotta love it.
Yeah.
I wish Jeremy Irons fought himself in Dead Ringers. It would have been a much better movie. I like Dead Ringers.
But yeah, most of the cast, I'm sure it was an exhausting movie because every scene they've got to be crying, they've got to be screaming, they've got to be running. But I thought the whole cast, even though they didn't have a lot of complex emotions to play, they did pretty good of keeping that intensity level up.
Yeah, I think I would say it's. I'll play the ranking game and say it is probably. I'd like it probably just as much as something like Aliens.
Really? Yeah, Aliens is actually probably the most similar.
Yeah.
Of just having, like, it's nonstop. There's a threat every step of the way.
Yeah, and just keep up the action, keep up the intensity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say Aliens is probably a stronger movie as a whole, but I'd say it's about just as entertaining, though. But there's still something kind of untouchable about the original, and for me, Prometheus was probably the most interesting out of the whole bunch. The one I'm more interested to kind of go back to and rewatch and pick apart.
Yeah, I think it's definitely better than 3 and 4.
Yeah, I don't think there's any disputing that. Probably no disputing that it's better than Alien versus Predator 1 or 2 as well.
Oh yeah, I always forget about those.
Yeah, it's always funny to me when people still bring that up in the mythology. It's like, well, where does
AVP?
Where does Alien versus Predator Requiem fit into the Alien timeline? It's like, maybe it was Sigourney Weaver's bad dream when she was in cryo sleep.
That's what Twin Peaks is going to turn out to be. It's all going to be Cooper's dream within a dream.
He just wakes up and he's just like, oh, wow, that was a crazy nightmare.
Yeah, like, whoa, geez. And then he goes back to sleep and the end credits roll over him napping quietly.
And then it zooms out and it's in a snow globe. And
oh, yeah, that'd be even better. I enjoy your brother on the show. Should have him show up every now and then.
Oh, thank you. I need to. I'm in the other room usually when he's doing these things, so I could drop in more often.
Yeah, it's not too often that the stuff I'm talking about is what we've both watched that week.
Yeah.
We kind of do our own things separately.
Yeah, you have your schedule, I have mine, and we kind of tend to be on different timelines of what we're experiencing, and
yeah, Twin Peaks we're going to stick with.
I'm glad we have that. And actually,
so you'll probably be showing up, at least once a month to talk about Twin Peaks.
Yeah, and now I have Sundays off, so when the new episodes drop, I'll be able to watch them new. So I'm excited.
I really think you should revisit Inherent Vice. I think it's amazing. Yeah, I've talked about how I didn't really like Inherent Vice so much.
I want to give it another chance. Because that was an example of setting my expectations too goddamn high.
Yeah. And I think the trailer was a little bit misleading, the first trailer.
The trailer was awesome.
Yeah, it looked like Boogie Nights,
Yeah, exactly.
Funny, fast, like boom, boom, boom. You got Sly and the Family Stone on the soundtrack, and it's like, wow, that looks funky and funny. And
back to the old PTA with all these crazy characters and music that you love and recognize, and it's so much energy.
And it is not that at all.
No.
It's very dialogue driven. It goes off on digressions, and it kind of has this very slow, like pothead kind of rhythm to it.
Mm-hmm. I felt kind of overwhelmed by the movie with how much information was coming at me in such at such the pace that it was, that at a certain point I gave up trying to keep track of who everybody was, what was going on. I was just sort of passively just watching things happen. And I felt very disconnected to what was happening.
Which I read the book, Inherent Vice. I read the Thomas Pynchon book before I saw the movie. And Inherent Vice is PTA's worst film, but it is still fantastic. There's varying opinions on it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I read the Thomas Pynchon book beforehand, and I actually really liked the book. It was the first Pynchon book I'd ever read. And I've heard a lot of people say it's his weakest book.
Oh, interesting.
So
I guess... Have they adapted any other books?
No, Inherent Vice was the first time he's ever allowed his work to be adapted.
Allowed his work?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
From what I understand, he's very private. He doesn't do interviews. There are no photographs of him. He doesn't like film adaptations. This is the first time he's ever allowed one to happen.
Okay.
And I thought the book was good. Like, I really liked the way Pynchon played with language. And I think in a novel you can get away with things that you can't really get away with in a movie. You can meander a lot. You can just sort of... the whole point of the thing can be that it doesn't really go anywhere. That it's endlessly complicated... and it doesn't really resolve. I think that works in a book, but in a movie, I don't know. I guess I just have different expectations.
Yeah, and what I've heard, it's a fairly faithful adaptation of the book.
Yeah,
almost like too faithful. To the fact that it doesn't really visualize much beyond people sitting at tables talking.
Yeah, I think that's a key component is Pynchon's language, the way he writes a scene, the way he describes a scene. You translate that to images, you've got to create a different language.
Yeah.
And I just don't think necessarily cinema is the best format for that kind of play and that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, I mean,
but I've only seen the movie once.
Me too.
Maybe going back to it, I'd find more to enjoy.
I'd probably honestly enjoy it more now that I know what it is.
Yes.
And now that I don't have that image of what I wanted it to be from the trailer in my head.
Talk about expectations.
Exactly.
It just wasn't what I wanted it to be.
I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Like, I think
we all are.
We all are,
yeah.
absolutely.
I can't give anybody too much shit about that because we all do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just it's easy to be an outsider looking in, but it's different when it's something you love and you're protective over.
We're all hypocrites to some extent.
Yeah. But I think more than anything else, at least Inherent Vice gave us the image of James Brolin or Josh Brolin filleting a frozen banana.
Yeah.
That was my favorite shot.
There were moments, that were pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what I liked.
There was a lot of... Joaquin Phoenix was fucking great in it, too. Like, I don't even have to know what's going on to know that he was exceptional in the movie.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, a lot of his best moments were in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like when he gets hit on the head with the bat and takes the blind swings as he goes down.
Or that whole ending, that really awkward kind of shootout at the end.
Yeah, which is
did
very
I
close.
Hit you?
That's very close to the book.
Yeah, I loved that.
I think he was probably the strongest thing that he did. He just took that character, Doc Sportello, really just in his own direction.
Yeah.
There's so much that he does that is just not on the page. That is just him performing. It's Joaquin Phoenix is always really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And he is pretty funny in that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a great cast too.
Great cast.
You could pretty much just watch actors acting and
I think that's essentially what PTA wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
He said his inspiration for Inherent Vice was like movies from the 40s, where it's all about performance and characters and actors and just like star power, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think, he wasn't too concerned with plot. He wasn't too concerned, with moving the story along. It's just kind of like, let's watch these actors in this scene and just see what happens.
Yeah.
You can tell he loves...
Now you're both talking like you enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
It's kind of how it ends up turning out with us, yeah. But
it's Paul Thomas Anderson. There's stuff to discuss there. He always, even when I don't enjoy his stuff, which, like, I think the only other one that I haven't enjoyed is his first one, Hard 8.
I've never seen Hard 8.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the only one I haven't seen. I've seen everything else. But...
Yeah, it left me very cold. Very slow, and I don't know. I guess just maybe my preferred PTA mode is like the Boogie Nights mode, the exuberant mode.
Yeah.
And he just has, I guess it just goes back to expectations. Yeah, he has, like you said about Danny McBride, it's like, people can do more than one thing. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's just my problem, but my least favorites of his have been Inherent Vice and Hard 8 when he's been more subdued.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? But like Paul Thomas Anderson, like he's just such a talented filmmaker that he's always going to give you a lot more to discuss than like Brett Ratner or Ratner, or Roland Emmerich, let's say.
Well, they deliver a product. Like that's kind of...
I mean, they're good at what they do.
Yeah,
they make entertaining movies, but you really can't expect to walk away like, wow, what's your interpretation of the Chris Tucker character?
Well, we can talk about that. I'd love to do that at some point. It's actually about culture clash and
yes, Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker.
It's actually about how different people from different countries, how they at first they don't get along, and there's an abrasiveness of the lack of understanding between culture and heritage.
But slowly, bridges are built and connections are established.
In the end, we find out we have more in common than we ever thought.
Yes.
Rush Hour is a beautiful film. It really gets to the heart of humanity.
Yeah. I always tell this story, but when I went to film school in Seattle, the first day I was there in film school, they asked everybody, okay, name one movie that had a tremendous impact on you and that made you want to be a filmmaker. And they went around to everybody in the room, and people were saying like, Breakfast at Tiffany's. I think I said Apocalypse Now. People said like The Godfather. Like the big choices. And then I got to one guy, and believe it or not, he actually said Rush Hour 2.
Really? Rush Hour 2?
Yeah,
huh?
I think the teacher actually said like, He was trying to be
Of
respectful.
all, like, let me reiterate, of all time, your favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, essentially, yes. And the teacher actually asked him, like, not trying to be mean or anything, just
Yeah.
like, that
If anything, that would interest me. Like,
Yeah,
what is it about Rush Hour 2?
that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Nobody else is saying something like that. Like, why Rush Hour 2? And he didn't really have an answer. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's like, it has everything. It has comedy. It has action. I mean, just like, it's got everything.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't last long. I think he was gone the next day.
Oh, poor guy.
Not trying to make fun of anybody's
No,
taste,
but-
but like,
It's just, I think you either appreciate those kinds of movies, or you just kind of see them as,
I almost got the feeling like that was just the last movie he had seen. So he
Yeah.
just said that one.
probably. But to me, like, there was always.
But I mean, there's no rule that says you can't love those movies or be
Yeah.
influenced by them.
I've always thought, though, like, typically those tend to be people's favorite movies if they don't have any other exposure to any other kinds of movies. Because those are the ones that are those are the ones that play on TBS, you know, the ones that
Yeah.
play on, like, Fox Movie Channel and stuff. And like, if that's all you really watch, then you don't really know about, you know, actual films with, like, any kind of artistic
Chinatown.
like, you know, we're film people, so we have a vocabulary for all different kinds of movies, but for a lot of people, movies are just movies, and it's just,
Yeah,
you know,
I guess that's true.
there's
Nothing
no-
wrong with that, but
if anything, it's kind of, it gives you a different perspective on things. I always try to keep that in check of, you know,
that most people just watch movies just to have a good time,
exactly
just to enjoy them.
And I actually have a hard time recommending movies to people because I constantly have to be aware of that. I've seen so many movies and I'm not entertained by the same things that.
Oh yeah,
Because I'm kind of a little bit. I wouldn't want to say I'm more aware, like in a cocky way, but
I have a more refined palate.
well, it's just I'm more familiar with things, and
Yeah.
to me, something that's really hackneyed and cliched to somebody else could be very original because they haven't seen
Yeah.
the thing that it's being hackneyed and cliched from. You know.
I remember Roger Ebert saying in one of the reviews for one of the Indiana Jones movies, he was saying if any one of those movies came first, they would be hailed as the classic that Raiders of the Lost Ark is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you could almost say that about anything, right? Like if Halloween 4 came before Halloween 1, would that be hailed as the same classic? Because like Halloween established those rules.
Yeah.
It established those cliches.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if they hadn't been established by anything beforehand, like who's to say what wouldn't be a great movie?
That's true. I guess you just got to
So, I
be
mean,
there
like, yeah.
first. Yeah.
If The Bye-Bye Man is the first horror movie you've ever seen, that might blow your mind.
Yeah, possibly. And I mean, hey, and that's a real world example. We when we were kids, the first Halloween movie we saw was Halloween 4.
Yeah, and it was the scariest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah,
up to
and
that point.
I was terrified of that movie. And
We saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel late at night.
yeah, and
And when you're like, what, 10 years old?
you have
like,
no idea what Michael Myers is.
Yeah.
Like I think that there's a lot of truth in that. It's how you're exposed to things, and I think
Yeah,
that
what context you put each film and each experience into.
yeah. And I'm really just trying to. This is a long answer to justify Rush Hour 2 as an example, but maybe that was just like one of the first like big action movies you saw that mixed comedy and action really seamlessly and had a lot of rapport and stuff that just all those elements that just did it really well.
Yeah,
It just
he'd
hit
never
him.
seen 48 Hours. He'd never seen all
Rush
the
Hour
stuff.
1.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say now. So a girl in my film class said Speed was her favorite film. That's so funny you mentioned Speed, because I actually just read a thing with Christopher Nolan talking about his influences. Speed was actually one of them.
Really?
So,
okay, cool.
yeah, hey, I mean, you can be Christopher Nolan and be influenced by, like, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I'm trying to think of what the other big Christopher Nolan stuff is. I forget what else was on the list, just Speed was the one that stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, Harmony Korine, like, one of his favorite movies is Beverly Hills Cop 2. So, I mean...
Didn't he also cite the Tommy Lee Pamela Anderson sex tape as one of his favorite movies?
One of his top 10 favorite movies is the Pamela Lee Tommy Lee
Pamela Anderson sex tape.
The sex tape.
That's such a great choice. I think I kind of like people that are a little bit honest about their own tastes of
I mean, what you like is what you like. You've got to embrace it. Like, I gotta say, when I was younger, the movies that had the biggest impact on me, like the stuff that just blew my mind, that I thought were the greatest movies ever made, were like Desperado by Robert Rodriguez and Army of Darkness by Sam Raimi. When you're 12 years old, like, wow, those are the best movies ever made. And then, like, I started seeing 2001: A Space Odyssey and Persona, but, like, I still have an appreciation, like,
for opening up your mind when you were young and just thinking, like, wow, you could do this movie different, like this kind of movie differently, and do this kind of shot, and something that's really visceral and high energy.
Yeah, and I still love those movies. I still love Desperado and Army of Darkness, and I also love 2001: A Space Odyssey and Persona, and those movies that really opened my mind as to not just... I think Desperado and Army of Darkness, it really showed me, like, the style that a film could have. And then 2001, like, Persona showed me the depths and the art that film could be.
Yeah. I think that's just a part of growing up too. Of you as you get older, your tastes change, and you sort of you tend to change as a person. So does your taste for movies. And
is it Brynjar?
Hey, Brynjar!
Gotta love Bruce Campbell.
Nice. Yeah, Bruce Campbell's the man.
I non-ironically love Spy Kids.
Yeah, why not?
It's a good kids movie.
Yeah, I've even heard good things about the Spy Kids too.
I used to think Twins was the greatest film.
We watched Twins quite a bit.
We did,
and
actually.
Hey, I legitimately like Junior. Like, I'll defend Junior as a good movie.
Okay.
So, come at me. Come on.
One of Kubrick's favorite films was White Men Can't Jump. I
Really?
didn't know that. He liked a lot of interesting stuff.
I know he was a big fan of Modern Romance. By
the Albert Brooks movie?
Yeah, which that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm a big Albert Brooks fan. I always thought he was underrated.
Yeah. Albert Brooks is definitely underrated.
Yeah.
Not enough people have seen his work. Real Life is great. I don't think he's made a bad movie as far as ones he's directed. Modern Romance, Real Life, Defending Your Life, Mother... Looking for Comedy in the Muslim World. They're all like so classic. They're such classic, underrated comedies.
Yeah.
They're still on Netflix, right?
I think there was a time when they had every single Albert Brooks movie on Netflix, but I think they took off a couple.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, but not Defending Your Life. Lost in America. It's going to be in the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, that's a good one too. It's been so long since I've seen that one.
First time one of his movies has been on Blu-ray too.
Oh, that's sad.
I know. It's some of my favorite movies. It's like you can't even find them.
I know. Yeah.
When Netflix put them all on their queue, that was like the first time I'd seen them in a long time because they're hard to find.
Yeah. I was also gonna say Ingmar Bergman. He had like supposedly this huge VHS collection on his island or on his house on Faroe Island.
Yeah.
And I guess. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that one he used to rewatch constantly was Ghostbusters.
I heard that too.
Yeah, so I think, Ingmar Bergman, one of his favorites was Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
No shame, I love Maximum Overdrive. That's actually a fun one.
I like,
Stephen King's only film as a director. That's a fun one. Killer Semi-Trucks, come on. That's a fun concept.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of guilty pleasures.
You guys ever watched Decalogue? I haven't seen the Decalogue.
I actually just picked it up recently.
You have the Criterion Blu-ray.
Yeah, on the Barnes & Noble sale recently. I picked that one up to watch it, but I was actually planning on watching it fairly recently, but then Twin Peaks happened, and that's just all that's been on my radar lately. So I'll probably get to it eventually. But
we'll have to watch that. I've known about the Decalogue, and it's been on my watch list for years, but I have yet to see it.
Yeah, and
I
he's
need
not
to
a,
get around to that one.
he's not a filmmaker I'm very familiar with.
Kieslowski?
Yeah, I've seen Blue when I was like,
Yeah, Three Colors.
I watched it in high school and I was like, oh, it's a great movie, but I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So I need to watch it with a bit more.
I get asked about the Three Colors trilogy constantly, and it's been years since I've seen them, and at the time when I watched them, I didn't really get them.
Yeah.
And so, they're ones I need to revisit because, they obviously have a very devoted following. Yeah, they're considered by many to be among the greatest films ever made. I need to go back to them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not too sure about this argument. Maybe I just wasn't mature enough to appreciate them at the time. That's certainly happened with films before.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned recently the first time I saw Cries and Whispers, the Bergman movie, I was just too young to appreciate what that movie was trying to say, what it was trying to do. Watched it again recently, devastated me. So maybe Three Colors is the same way.
I kind of feel that way. I mean, a lot of the classic films that when we were getting into films that, we read the lists and we're like, oh, you have to watch these.
Yeah, you have to see these.
And when you watch 8.5 when you're like 14, you're like, yeah, great movie, awesome. But then you kind of need a little bit of life experience to get into
I think that is
movie.
essential. For certain movies, you do need to, experience some heavy stuff to fully appreciate.
Yeah, that's why
as I get older, I find I'm more attuned to those kinds of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Just to what Bergman is getting after, like mortality and aging. Like I feel that a lot stronger now than I did the first time I saw those movies.
Yeah, that's why I'm always open-minded to go back and watch stuff that I didn't like in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I may have gone through a change that suddenly
I always
really,
say that, yeah.
I can really empathize with
You have different experiences with movies each time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I don't do ratings, is because I never know, like, if I go back to that movie, I might experience it completely differently.
Yeah.
It's an evolving process.
That's why I kind of like ratings, though, because I like to measure where I was at that point.
Oh, yeah.
On the other side of the coin, I
look at how you've changed.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll watch a movie that I haven't seen in a long time, be like, this kind of sucked. But then I'll go on Mubi or whatever and find I gave it 5 stars, and I'm like, oh, I guess I used to really like it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like seeing how I've changed by sort of that.
It's interesting.
Rough idea.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's always the exact same movie, but your reaction can be so different.
Yeah.
Depending, on where you are in your life at that point, or just how you're feeling that day.
Yeah.
There's so many variables. Mm-hmm. Same thing happened to me with Jodorowsky. I love Jodorowsky almost right away with me, but I can understand for some people he's an acquired taste.
Yeah. I only recently watched his movies, so I don't really have a gauge to measure. I've just always loved his movies, just because you were aware of him a lot longer than I was.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and you tried to get me to watch his movies for the longest time, and I was always resistant, just because, like, I think with The Holy Mountain, that was the one you were really trying to get me to watch, was The Holy Mountain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the craziest one. That was great.
And for me, I was kind of resistant, because I was... I don't know. I think I was worried I'd be kind of disturbed by it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I didn't really at the time and really enjoy those kinds of movies.
Like the psychedelic stuff,
yeah.
Or like the really extreme stuff.
Yeah, I kind of would go along with it and watch it sometimes, but I didn't really get much enjoyment out of it.
Oh.
And I'm glad I watched them when I did when I was in college, because it was a little bit more open-minded.
College, man, that's the that's the time.
That's the time, exactly. And yeah, when I watched El Topo for the first time and The Holy Mountain, I was like, holy shit, these are the best movies ever made. I can't believe they actually got made.
Yeah.
And at the time it was kind of cool too, because Dance of Reality was just coming out.
Yeah, and we got to see that in theaters.
And so
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was just like this big weekend where I completely delved into this guy's filmography, and he had a new movie out, and
first in 23 years.
Yeah, it was a pretty special time to get introduced to his work.
Me and my friends watched The Holy Mountain stoned, and I think it changed us forever. It'll do that.
Yeah.
Like, without exaggeration, Jodorowsky, when he made The Holy Mountain, he actually intended to make a sacred film. That was his ambition going into The Holy Mountain, was to make something sacred. He thought, like, we have sacred books, we have sacred texts, we have the Quran, we have the Bible. Why can't a film be sacred? Be just as sacred as a book? So he made The Holy Mountain intending to make something sacred, a film that people would worship the same way they worship a book like the Bible. So, I mean,
Wow.
that's about as ambitious as you could possibly get for a movie. So, I mean, it's intended to change people when they watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember that guy when we saw The Holy Mountain in theaters? It was a double bill. We saw
I know where you're going.
we saw
Chris.
we saw the Dance of Reality and The Holy Mountain on a double bill in theaters. It was great. But I don't think everybody was fully prepared for Holy Mountain when that one started. And there was one guy in particular that seemed to be a little bit taken aback.
He was with the movie up to a certain point. I'm trying to remember the first few scenes in the Holy Mountain. You get well, of course, the opening shot is very striking.
With the women being stripped and having their hair cut.
Yeah.
And then which actually I read that Jodorowsky's original idea for the opening is he wanted to dissect a real human cadaver, but he couldn't get permission to do that, so he changed the opening. But man, could you imagine?
Shit. Yeah. But
so you get introduced to the thief. He climbs up to the top of the tower. He meets the alchemist. And then the alchemist performs a process where he turns the thief's excrement into gold. Now, apparently, everything up to that point, there's strange stuff that happens constantly in that movie.
But there's not a peep in the theater.
Yeah, everyone's just kind of watching and trying to absorb the experience. But when it gets to that, turning excrement into gold, that was apparently more than one person could handle. And then we just hear, clear as a bell, right behind us, just the guy saying, "Oh, it's one of those movies." Which I, to this day, do not know what he meant by that.
One of those turning shit into gold movies.
One of those. Oh, okay.
I'm so tired of these movies. Every time you go to a movie now, they turn shit to gold. I just can't get away from it. That was really hilarious.
Oddly appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. What movies is this guy watching that I don't know about, that I need to see? That was kind of a unique experience too, watching. You don't really get to see Jodorowsky movies in a theater setting that much anymore.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
It's like a communal thing. You get a lot of varied reactions. There are some people that just aren't going to go along with it, and then other people that, are just going to get totally enveloped.
Yeah, and I love seeing the division within the audience that goes on. Because in the same scene, people will be laughing and crying. It's such
He tries to hit so many different tones at the same time. Mm-hmm. I think it was Lynch I grew to love. Didn't know what to make of Blue Velvet, but years down the line saw Lost Highway and loved it.
Lost Highway was one I saw in the theaters too over in Portland, and that was another exciting one to see in a theater setting because of how varied the reaction was.
Oh, really?
Hugely varied. Maybe one of the most varied. There was the people in the front it was basically just a comedy to them. They were laughing at almost everything.
Really?
And they were probably in an ironic way of thinking, this movie is terrible. This is awful. But then I was kind of more in the back, and sort of the crowd I was with was really, really into it and really picking it apart and getting into the atmosphere of it. And there's people over to the left of me who are sort of watching across arms with confused, those kinds of faces. And there's kind of an older crowd in front of me that's sort of got their hands on their mouths, looking intensely. And there was every kind of reaction going on during that movie, and it was kind of a beautiful thing to witness. Just kind of looking every once in a while, just look at the audience and see some of the faces. Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting of having those different kinds of experiences in theaters. You can watch, say, a Steven Spielberg movie, or we saw Alien Covenant. The theater was basically empty. We didn't have much of a communal experience with that one. Mm-hmm. But you can watch something like a Steven Spielberg movie, and it's like a shared group experience. It's intended to elicit a specific reaction in people. And then you can watch stuff like Lynch or Jodorowsky that elicit all these different responses, and you can kind of see the different temperatures in different areas of the room.
Yeah,
I think both experiences are really interesting. I'm getting back into like the value of a theater experience now.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be really negative on it, but like honestly, you can have some of the most memorable experiences with a film in a theater setting, like with an audience,
Yeah.
no matter what their reaction is.
For me, yeah, I kind of forgot how a lot of the movies that were made, genre pictures, were really made to be seen with an audience.
Yeah.
One of the most fun times I've ever had in a theater was watching the 1980s version of The Blob in theaters. That was so much goddamn fun watching that in the theater.
It's actually a surprisingly good movie.
Yeah, and I'm sure I would have liked it if I saw it just by myself at my house, like on Netflix or something.
Mm-hmm.
But watching it in a theater full of people who were reacting to it and screaming and laughing and having fun, and I was like, this is why they made movies. Like, I forgot that this is what it's supposed to be like.
Uh-huh.
And it was it just totally reawakened that feeling of that communal experience in the theater and feeding off of each other's energy.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with Phantasm 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that when I was in Seattle. I saw it at the Grand Illusion Theater, which the Grand Illusion is this really tiny independent theater. It's basically a room this size with a screen, about the size, not even the size of my wall here, but it's a very intimate setting, and they only have like maybe 24 seats. And they play everything on film. I saw Phantasm 2 there with just a collection of like horror movie fans. And I know watching that, just if I'd watched it at home on Netflix or something, I kind of just would have been fairly passive. It's like, oh yeah, it's not really as good as the first one, but yeah, kind of a fun movie. But seeing it with a room in that small of a setting, packed full of fans who were having a great time with it, I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun. Like, this horror movies especially are made to, be fun experiences for an audience. And you shit on jump scares, like, when you see them just by yourself, like, oh, that's too obvious. But you see them in a room and everybody screams and throws their popcorn. It adds something. It's a different kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize, like, oh, this is how the film is intended to be conducted. Not just one person sitting alone in a room, but a room full of people, engaged and having a good time.
Yeah. Hopefully that never goes away. I know it's dwindling down, but...
I mean, I think theaters are going away. I think at the very least that multiplexes will go away and new movies will stop playing in theaters. But I think, like, at least in cities, there will always be a thirst, for seeing stuff on film, for seeing classic movies, for seeing revivals. So I think those theaters will probably stay. Like the places in Portland, the places in Seattle, so that people can still see those things and have those experiences. I think those will probably stick around, at least longer than the multiplexes.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. Because the people that are passionate about it are really passionate about it and will keep it going for as long as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And you may have to travel farther to have those kinds of experiences. You may have to go to the cities to watch a movie in a theater, but still, at least it'll still be going on in some way.
Yeah, it'll still be somewhere. The theater is almost like the church for the films.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the worship will still be there, but hopefully the churches will stick around for people to congregate.
Yeah, I like that.
I think I saw something. I also saw the Holy Mountain at a festival with a live band doing the score. It was such a high.
Wow, that would have been cool.
Oh yeah, you don't need drugs for the Holy Mountain. The Holy Mountain is the drugs. That
I
was
agree with
actually
that,
Jodorowsky designed it that way. He was also going to do Dune the same way. He wanted to make a movie that gave the same effect on the human brain as LSD. Mm-hmm. So that was very much in his mind. And I think somebody else said something about
the music is fantastic, by the way, for the Holy Mountain. You have the soundtrack for it.
Yeah, I got the DVD set that came with the soundtracks for El Topo and the Holy Mountain.
I think especially Holy Mountain has a pretty underrated score, so that would have been cool to see live.
That's what he said. To me, Holy Mountain seems intentionally a comedy. I find it hilarious. You know what? Jodorowsky definitely has a sense of humor. I think because it comes from the 70s and like the acid head culture, I think a lot of people interpret it as like, oh yeah, he was taking everything seriously for better or for worse. And he took himself seriously, but at the same time, he knew how to to make a joke. He knew, how to laugh, and there's definitely humor to his movies.
I feel that way about David Lynch too.
Yes,
I think some people think that he's humorless and everything's supposed to be taken as strange and surreal and disturbing, but his movies are funny. Like they're pretty.
Yes,
they're
they
really
are.
funny.
They are.
Even Eraserhead has some really funny moments.
Yeah. Excrement into gold is the alchemical ideal. Holy Mountain is full of Kabbalic, Hermetic, Theosophic, etc. symbolism. Don't mean to sound snobby, but it helps a lot to have at least a passing familiarity with Eastern, Western esoteric systems and symbolism. Absolutely, yeah. Hodorowski's a scholar, of all of that. He studied so intensely religion and culture and history. So, his movies are just an insane collection of all these different influences. The tarot, there's so much there. Yeah, if you look into it, it's amazing how densely layered they are.
And I'm
that kind of stuff.
I'm very ignorant to all of that. So that's why I love watching his movies, because it feels like you're getting something that's so densely researched and so rich and such a product of all that, and it's to me just fascinating. Like it makes me want to investigate further.
Mad Woman of the Sacred Heart is a perfect example of Hodo being able to laugh at himself. I think that's a comic that he did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to read more of his comics, just unfortunately they aren't very widely available in the US.
I remember we were looking into finding what was it, his big epic one?
The Inkal. I want to read the Inkal so bad.
But good luck finding a copy.
I know,
It's insanely expensive.
I think the cheapest one I've ever found is like $200.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be reading it anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was something else that popped into my head that I wanted to mention. Oh, you know what? Somebody else asked about Paris, Texas. Oh, yeah. Are you fans of Wim Wenders? Paris, Texas in particular. I'm a fan of Wim Wenders. I haven't seen a lot of his movies.
It's been too long since I've seen Paris, Texas.
Really? Paris, Texas is one of my favorite movies. I love Paris, Texas.
I remember really, really liking it, but it's been too long. I couldn't honestly tell you much about it.
Really? I'm surprised.
I remember that
maybe it was Brett that
Brett really loves that movie.
Yeah.
But all I remember is Harry Dean Stanton looking dirty and homeless, and then there's like a kid, and then there's like a big scene on a telephone, and that's all I really remember.
Oh, okay, yeah, you remembered most of the essentials.
Yeah, so I need to see it again, but it left somewhat of an impression. But
have you seen any Wenders' other movies? Have you seen Wings of Desire?
No, actually, I don't. I'm really I don't know much of his
Pina,
work.
The documentary.
No. I don't know the Road trilogy at all. I don't know any of his movies.
There's some good ones. I've seen Alice in the Cities. That's a good one. Wings of Desire I'm not a huge fan of, but it's interesting. There's some beautiful moments in that one. Paris, Texas is far and away so close my favorite.
Yeah.
That was not intentional. Far Away So Close is the sequel to Wings of Desire that he made. But it occurred to me as I was saying that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Paris, Texas is by far my favorite of his work. I think that's just a perfect movie. The Sam Shepard script is beautiful. The performances by Harry Dean Stanton and Nastasia Kinski are great. The music by Ry Cooder, which he just improvised as he was watching the movie. He just had his guitar and was just playing his emotions as he was watching the movie. It's a great score. And Wenders' direction is just fantastic. Who's the cinematographer? Robbie Mueller. I love Robbie Mueller. He's one of my favorite cinematographers. Paris, Texas is some of his best work. Yeah, I just think it's such a great movie. Every individual element is so strong, and it all comes together. Yeah, just such a wonderful whole. I love that movie.
I'll have to watch it again.
They're $40-ish now.
Ooh.
The Hodo comics. I'll have to look into that then.
Back in print, eh?
Yeah, I still probably don't have the money, but I'll have to check it out.
I have a bit of disposable income. Maybe I'll pick some up.
If you get the in-call, I definitely want to read that.
Yeah.
So it's been about 2.5 hours. This is usually the point where I bring the streams to a close.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was fun. Glad you had me on.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Give a different feel to this one.
Yeah. Maybe make another appearance after the next set of Twin Peaks episodes comes out.
We're definitely going to be talking about the next 4 episodes. How are they doing it now? Because 4 does not go into 18 evenly. There's going to be 2 left over. They're just going to do like the big finale, the final 2 as the last one.
They haven't really been clear. I'm kind of thinking they're just going to start doing 2 at a time now. Because
Only 2?
I honestly think they released 4 up front because they knew if they just released the first 2, people would be a little bit weary.
What?
Yeah, I think honestly they only released 4 up front to alleviate some concerns.
Okay.
I'm thinking now it's going to be 2 every week. That's what I'm thinking.
They're coming back June 4th with 1 episode. It's going to be one at a time.
Okay. And I was kind of expecting that because I think they wanted to get people hooked with the first 4, give them enough
they're siphoning it off to just a little drip feed now.
Yeah, they got people hooked. People like us who had some concerns and then they won us over.
Yeah.
I think that's what they were really trying to do. And now that they got us, they're gonna start doing the traditional weekly format.
Yeah. The last 2 episodes on September 3rd. Okay.
Cool. Good to know.
There is a fabulous Criterion Collection Blu-ray for Paris, Texas. There absolutely is. That's one of my favorite Blu-rays in my collection.
Yeah.
It's great.
I have it too, so it gives me no excuse to not go back and watch it.
Yeah, what the hell? Although I'm one to talk, I have so many Blu-rays that I haven't watched.
Yeah.
It's good to have your brother here. This whole comment
good
thread
to
is
be
basically
here.
one big fucking love-in.
It's good to be a part of the love.
Oh, I'm just going to wait till all the episodes are out. Yeah, that people love to binge things now, which admittedly is addicting.
Yeah.
Like, I just recently binged through all of Parks and Recreation a little while back. That's like, once you find something you like and it's just all available at the click of a button, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I kind of like going back to the traditional television thing, where it's like you get a little piece of the puzzle every set amount of time. It's like, ooh, I can't wait till next month to see where it goes, or next week.
That's where the discussion happens. That time between episodes, that gestation period, when people are thinking about it and obsessing over it. Yeah. And then they start forming connections of like, maybe this could mean something deeper than I thought.
Yeah.
Go back and watch it. And I think that's how phenomenons get started. That's how Breaking Bad got so big. Because there was so much... That was such a...
Game of Thrones, too.
Yeah, and that's ongoing. And I kind of wish I watched Breaking Bad as that was happening. Because that's one of my favorite shows. But I watched it after it was all out and readily available. So I just watched it all in like a month. But I would have enjoyed it more if I had to wait for that next episode, or I had to wait for the finale and just...
Yeah, you could talk with all your friends that are watching it.
Yeah, and I saw that happening. Like, my close friends of mine were big Breaking Bad fans, and I was a dumbass. I wasn't listening to them. They're like, you have to watch this show. It's amazing. And I was like, I don't watch TV. I'm a movie guy.
I'm the same exact way. People are constantly saying, you need to watch Fargo. It's an amazing show. It's like... He's not a TV guy, but I'm starting to kind of be won over. It's like, okay, I'll have to start watching Fargo because like people are saying it's amazing.
Yeah,
you're always telling me how great Breaking Bad is,
and Black Mirror, one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, Black Mirror. I've seen a bit of Black Mirror. That's damn good.
Yeah, so it won me over. I'm not snobby with TV anymore, but in retrospect, I wish I had that perspective when Breaking Bad was on, because I would have so enjoyed that time to theorize, discuss, and anticipate. I'm experiencing that now with Twin Peaks, and it's such a good feeling.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Seriously, each season of Fargo is its own movie. I've heard that, yeah. Also watch Utopia. That's on my list. I have it written down here. Yeah, Utopia I'm going to try and find. Oh. I'd rather wait a couple of months to be able to go through episodes at my own pace. Yes, I understand that.
Yeah, for sure.
Excited because Fargo is nearly finished. Wow, only 3 seasons.
Yeah, I honestly, I didn't even give it a chance the first season because I was like, the movie's great. They're not going to match up to the movie.
You'd be a snob about it. Yeah.
Exactly.
You can't just reinterpret the Coen brothers, okay?
But then...
Talk about movies as being sacred.
Yeah, exactly. And then, the reviews came in, and apparently it's great, and I do need to watch it. From the little bits I've seen, it actually does look really, really good.
Do that with Better Call Saul now.
That's true. I need to watch Better Call Saul. I'm always behind because my friends that were really into Breaking Bad at the time are now watching Better Call Saul, and the same fucking thing is happening. like, you should be watching this show. It's great. And I'm like, I just watched Breaking Bad. I'm going to give it some time before I watch Better Call Saul. And once I start Better Call Saul, when it's all over, I'm going to fucking instant regret that I wasn't watching it as it was happening. So
they're on Netflix, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
But I need to catch up to it. I think it's in like season 3 now. So
I honestly prefer the Fargo series over the film. Wow. Anyone seen Lars von Trier's TV show The Kingdom? There are only 2 seasons and it's in a hospital setting. Yeah, we watched The Kingdom.
Back in the day, yeah. I think I was a little too young to appreciate it. We watched that pretty... I think we were a little too young to watch it, really.
Yeah, well, it was a strange show. It had... I was going to say like a Twin Peaks feel. It doesn't really have a Twin Peaks feel, but it's that same kind of strangeness and...
humor. I remember it being pretty
humor,
funny,
unexplained things, a shifting tone. It was interesting. I don't. At the time, we didn't get too into it, but it was an interesting show.
We were on a.
They were going to do 3 series of that, but one of the main actors died, and they never did the 3rd series, so it's sort of unfinished. Wonder if that'll come back.
Hey, why not? Twin Peaks comes back.
The 3rd season of The Kingdom.
It's finally here. Right after the Jack that house built, the house that Jack built. Maybe after he finishes
that just got picked up by IFC.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's coming.
I like it.
I'm so excited. Lars von Trier is one of those few directors that today, everything he does is just going to be something colossal.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to see it. Like,
are you ready to be depressed? Here we go.
Essentially. That's what his movies are about. They're about depression.
Oh, yeah. And they're great.
Actually... He just finished the Depression trilogy. Nymphomaniac was the final entry in the Depression trilogy, so he might go on to other stuff. Who knows? But yeah, I'm really excited for the house that Jack built. How do you top a 2-part, 5.5-hour, hardcore, explicit epic? Like, what do you do next? What's the follow-up for that? So I'm really excited for a house that Jack built.
Yeah.
First season of Better Call Saul was just okay, but the 2nd and now the 3rd season hooked me.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind when I'm watching it, because I would honestly be okay if there was nothing Breaking Bad related that ever came out after that series ended.
His Psychopath Killer trilogy, yeah. He also needs to finish... He never finished the 3rd season of The Kingdom, and he never finished his America trilogy.
Oh yeah,
because he did Dogville, and then he did Manderley, and then after that was going to be Washington.
What was that? I don't know.
He never made it. Like, nobody knows.
Was there a script, or?
I don't know. There was a title.
Huh.
It's Washington without the H. So I assume it's Washington.
Yeah.
But he never made it. Yeah, that was another trilogy he never finished. Lars von Trier wrote an episode of Clown, I'm guessing? That show is hilarious.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah. You have?
Yeah. I only know about it because I saw the complete series, and I was very... interested in the way that it was presented.
Clown?
Yeah, it was... The complete series is contained on a thumb drive that's shaped like a penis. I was like, what is this show? I don't know much about it aside from that you can buy a penis complete collection USB drive.
Wow, sounds very Von Trier.
Yeah, so
I've only wrote 1 episode, huh?
I've been meaning to investigate that.
Somebody said, oh yeah, 2 must-watch shows recently are definitely Fargo and Mr. Robot.
Oh, Mr. Robot. I do want to watch that.
Yeah. There's a lot of shows I'm hearing a lot about.
Yeah,
God, I'm so far behind.
Yeah, I'm way behind on all...
Cloven,
and honestly,
Clown? I'm guessing Clown.
I'm pretty sure it's Clown.
Amazing. But... I really enjoy... Oh, I rarely enjoy cringy humor, but this show is just crazy.
Oh, Briniara, yeah. I don't know much about it. Other than... It's supposed to be like pretty absurd, I guess.
I've never heard of it. I'm surprised now.
Yeah, but I need to do more investigating. Put anything in a penis package, and I need to figure out what's going on here.
I think it was a budget fallout for Von Trier. Oh, for Washington, budget. Yeah, there was also... I want to do an Unmade Masterpieces on the film he was going to do. It was sort of like Boyhood. He had this film that he was going to do called Dimension, where he was going to film pieces over like a 25-year period, and the film was going to be released like on his 58th birthday or something like that. He shot like 1 day and then just abandoned it. Something like that. I don't know a lot about it, but like I've been wanting to do some more investigating and maybe do an Unmade Masterpieces on it. He's got a lot of really fascinating stuff out there.
Mr. Robot, very derivative of Fight Club.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know much about the series outside of just the acclaim it's gotten. But yeah, I'll go in open-minded. I try to.
Yeah. Right now, Fargo's the one I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to see that, because I don't think it wasn't on Netflix when I checked. I think it might be on Hulu, but I hate the ads on Hulu.
Yeah,
Can't watch TV on Hulu. I really want to watch more of Bob's Burgers, because I think that's such a funny show, but it's only on Hulu and they have the ads on there. I can't stand it.
Right. I'm still catching up on the old stuff though. Like I'm only like halfway through the first series of Star Trek.
Oh, and, you're watching original Star Trek.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things. It's like, well, everybody needs to have some Star Trek knowledge. So I'm like going through the original series, but I stopped because of Twin Peaks. And I'm gonna try and pick back up to try and get it finished so I can start watching other stuff, because I'm the kind of guy, I have to have one thing at a time. I can't be watching 5 different TV
so
shows.
Easy to get overwhelmed with just how much content there is now.
Yeah.
Gotta watch this show, gotta watch that show. There's 8 seasons, you gotta catch up on this. There's a new show that's amazing, gotta watch that.
I'm trying to alternate, though. I'm trying to do like one classic series and one new series. So after I'm done with Star Trek, I'm planning on doing something like Fargo or Better Call Saul.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Robot is on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
We might be able to start that one then.
Yeah, and there's actually some Prime shows that I've been interested in watching.
Yeah. Right now, it's just like there are still so many movies I haven't seen. You know, I've got the list of just all the movies I need to watch. It's like, God, I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, for sure.
Try not to get overwhelmed, though. Like, I don't want watching movies to feel like work. I want it to remain enjoyable. So I try not to get too overwhelmed with stuff.
James Bond's starting to feel like work now.
We're going through all the James Bond movies right now. I'm not a big fan of that series, but yeah, there's so many, and it goes through kind of a lull in the center once Roger Moore takes over. But Man with the Golden Gun wasn't bad. That was a fun one.
I was worried when we watched Live and Let Die. I don't have much of a Bond vocabulary. Like I've only seen the more recent ones, and then just bits and pieces of the older ones. Yeah. So kind of both of us were like, oh, we should watch all those movies. It's such a big part of
it's such a huge thing. It's like, oh yeah, James Bond. Everybody gets excited when the new James Bond movie comes out. It's like, I'd kind of like to go through, watch all of those, because it's such a big part of pop culture.
Yeah, and
such an iconic series.
Yeah, and I've been enjoying them, but they're not, like, not all of them are winners. So we've been having to kind of suffer through some of them, and by the time we got to Live and Let Die, I was like, I don't know how many more I can do.
Yeah,
like, this is getting tough.
Yeah, and I'm not even a very big fan of the Connery ones. They just haven't dated well. I don't like the character. I don't really get into spy movies. They're very dull to me.
The only one that I really had a lot of fun with was Goldfinger.
Goldfinger.
I really do like Goldfinger.
It's got the iconic elements, the laser. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. It's such in the public.
It's been parodied so many times.
Yeah,
referenced everybody, so many times.
Everybody knows it, but still, I think that it was the one that really got the humor right, that made it enjoyable. But
come on, Dana, the big death scenes in James Bond are hilarious.
I would agree with that. I mean, even Live and Let Die, the
Yaphet Kotto's death scene. That's pretty funny.
Great. Yeah, and then actually, The Man with the Golden Gun, which was after Live and Let Die, restored my faith in the series.
Yeah,
because that one was a lot of fun. I really liked that one.
Yeah, the thing that really saved that one was Christopher Lee as the villain,
and Hervé Valleshez. He was great.
Yeah,
Knick-knack.
But yeah, the thing I'm starting to learn, and I've read this before, I don't know why it's taken me this long to realize it, but yeah, the Bond movies are really made or broken on their villains. And yeah, Yaphet Kotto, he's a great actor, but he just didn't have much of a character to play in Live and Let Die. Wasn't really that good of a villain. But Christopher Lee as Scaramanga in The Man with the Golden Gun, great villain. And so that was a pretty solid Bond movie.
Yeah, and a lot of people, after Roger Moore passed, which was really sad to see.
Oh, yeah, he just died.
Yeah, because it's such a weird timing thing, too, because we just started going through his movies.
Yeah.
So he's really been on our minds lately, and a lot of people are bringing up The Spy Who Loved Me as, like, his ultimate Bond movie.
Really?
And I'm excited because that's our next movie in the series that we're going to be watching. So I think when we watch Spy Who Loved Me, it'll be kind of like a like a half tribute to Roger Moore as well, just because he probably I think he still holds the record for most Bond movies. He did like 7 or 8 or something like that.
I always forget if it's Connery or Moore, but they both did a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, like, he was such a big part of that franchise and that series, so I think it's fitting that we're in his section now to sort of pay tribute to that and rediscover those movies.
Yeah.
So
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is my favorite spy movie.
Oh.
Yeah, that's seems like it's starting...
the newer one, or because there was
I think
2,
so.
right?
Yeah, the one with Gary Oldman. That was a good movie. That was a good movie.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's part of another series, a book series by John Le Carré. I'm not sure exactly how to say his name. I think it's George Smiley. That series, they're kind of like darker spy movies, exploring the underbelly. But yeah, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was good. And I even saw I saw a few episodes of the original series too with Alec Guinness, and Guinness was pretty good.
That series. Yeah,
Guinness was good as Smiley, and Gary Oldman was great too. I love the way that one was shot because they got Thomas Alfredson to direct it, and he did Let the Right One In, the vampire movie, and he shot it like a horror movie, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Oh.
Like there are scenes like with Gary Oldman, like his whole face is just in shadow, and you see like an outline, and he's delivering like this really intense monologue. It's like, holy shit, he's like Nosferatu right now. It's really good, really tense.
Yeah, that's when I passed over it because I was hearing people go, "Oh, it's real boring." And in spy movies, I'm not big on spy movies, so I kind of skipped it. But it makes me interested to check it out, actually.
I think the Bourne movies are boring.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get why that's such a big series. I've never been able to get into a Bourne movie.
Yeah.
Like, I start it, and it's just like, I don't care.
I don't like the aesthetic too much either, the handheld
shaky cam. Yeah.
I do like Paul Greengrass as a director. And I'm a big fan of Captain Phillips, actually. I thought that was really good.
I like Captain Phillips, too. Tom Hanks was pretty great in that movie.
And I think that aesthetic, that shaky cam aesthetic, worked for that movie. Of just showing how unstable that situation was and how it was so chaotic and it could...
Yeah, and trying to give it an immediate feel.
Yeah, and I thought that transferred really well. But the Bourne movies, it always just felt a little too over the top. Like I can't get a handle on everything. I'm feeling sick.
Yeah.
I remember I watched the Bourne Ultimatum. It was back in the days when DVDs come in widescreen and full screen.
That's right. Yeah.
And I saw
full screen DVD.
I watched the Bourne Ultimatum in full screen, and so you get the action, that's already shaky in widescreen zoomed in, so you get less picture and less of an idea of what's happening around you, and it was just.
It's basically just motion sickness. The movie.
Exactly. I was like, I can't even watch this. I think I got halfway through and just turned it off, and I never went back.
But Spy Who Loved Me is my favorite of his. Yes, Moore has the record. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, to see how it is.
And I loved Javier Bardem too, Bruniar, in Skyfall.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, the last. I think that's why I liked the most recent ones more than any of the other ones because the villains are so good. I loved
Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah,
was great as the
Chief. Great villain.
And I even really like Christoph Waltz in Spectre.
Yes.
And that was...
I thought Spectre was kind of weak, but Christoph Waltz is great.
Yeah.
He's Christoph Waltz.
And then Mathieu Amalric was missed opportunity, I think. He could have been great.
Yeah,
but
I love Mathieu Amalric, but that was a weak script.
Yeah. And I mean, Quantum of Solace is just... Well, we don't need to talk about it. We'll get around to it, but...
Bourne movies turned sour for me after I read the books. I haven't read the books.
Yeah, I never got around to them.
All right, so I think...
Call it there.
Yeah, I think we'll bring this stream to a close. Had a lot of fun. Enjoyed doing this.
Good time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you everyone for showing up and having a discussion with us. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll be back with Dano over here talking about more Twin Peaks when that shows up.
Thanks for welcoming me into the group. I had a lot of fun. I normally don't do like live streams or anything, but this was awesome.
Yeah,
so,
they're fun. I'm enjoying them.
Absolutely. So hopefully you'll have me again.
Yes. Subscribe if you haven't already. You like the videos and you leave comments at everything that helps the channel. Wow, I thought Quantum of Solace was better than Spectre.
Oh,
interesting.
We'll talk next time.
But yeah, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed yourselves, and hopefully I'll see you next Saturday. We're making it Saturday again at 1. So yeah, have a great week, everyone.
Take care.
How do I stop?